Before retreating to Taiwan, I discovered a love letter Wei Lin had written to his mistress. My dearest Xianglan, the mainland is lost, come with me to Taiwan at once. Inside were 2 plane tickets, one for his lover, and one for himself, flying from Shanghai to Taiwan. With the mainland lost, Wei Lin, as head of the Military Statistics Bureau, was ready to abandon me and start anew in Taiwan with his lover. I neither cried nor made a scene. The next day, I secretly rendezvoused with the organization. I handed over a top-secret document to the liaison. Wei Lin didn't know I also held a plane ticket, flying from Shanghai to Yan'an. His mainland was lost, while mine has just begun its rebirth. What? You're not going to Taiwan anymore? My contact comrade was named Gu Fei. He was just an ordinary fishmonger at the market, while I was the general's wife who frequented his stall. For years, this had been our rendezvous point. Gu Fei's identity was fabricated, but mine was genuine. I nodded firmly. I've made up my mind. I want to go to Yan'an and join the Women's Federation. Gu Fei noticed my troubled expression and fell silent for a long moment before saying, lying, this is no trivial matter. Revolution isn't a dinner party. Once you make this decision, there's no turning back. You've been married to Wei Lin for 8 years. If you end up separated by the strait for life, are you truly prepared for that? I pressed my lips together. Well, the main thing is, he's already prepared, but, Gu Fei's face clouded with hesitation. Since I wasn't yet a party member, my official identity remained that of a nationalist officer's wife. After liberation, my current status would cause complications. Sensing Gu Fei's hesitation, I pressed on. I've acted in films, directed plays, and performed opera. I can stay and contribute to cultural propaganda work. Please help me appeal to the organization, I beg you. Though filled with doubts, Gu Fei ultimately agreed, seeing my determination and all the assistance I'd provided over the years. All right, I'll do my best to help you out. Come by tomorrow morning and you'll find out if it works out. Got it, I nodded gratefully. 3 years ago, when I first helped the organization deliver intelligence, Gu Fei tried to recruit me, but back then, I feared exposing my identity would jeopardize Wei Lin's career, so I never joined. All I wanted was revolutionary victory, then to retreat to Taiwan with Wei Lin and live peacefully. But yesterday, Wei Lin forgot an important document at home and asked me to fetch it from his desk drawer for the driver. It was an envelope containing a list of all our undercover operatives. Absolutely crucial. I quickly memorized the names on the list while fetching the documents. When closing the drawer, I discovered a thick stack of letters underneath, from 1945 to 1949, without interruption. Every letter bore the same sender's name, He Xianglan. Among them was one letter Wei Lin never got to send. Out of curiosity, I opened it and took a peek. My dearest Xianglan, the mainland is lost. Come back to Taiwan with me at once. A chill ran down my spine. Glancing back at the envelope, I saw 2 plane tickets with names written on them. One was He Xianglan's, the other his own, flying from Shanghai to Taiwan. I recalled Wei Lin mentioning that several Huangpu classmates would visit tonight. This letter must be delivered to He Xianglan's hands tonight. I stood frozen in place for a long moment. Shanghai was about to be liberated as nationalist troops gradually retreated to Taiwan. The only person he wanted to take with him wasn't me, it was He Xianglan. It wasn't until the driver came to hurry me that I snapped out of it and handed him the documents. I returned to my room and shut the door behind me. That face bearing my likeness surfaced in my mind once more. I first heard He Xianglan's name 8 years ago at a wedding. Several of Wei Lin's Huangpu classmates from the same cohort came to see me in the dressing room. Tipsy and teasing, they nudged Wei Lin. Your new bride looks just like Xianglan. Same old taste. Wei Lin, now that's what I call devotion. Come on sis, bottoms up. That's when I realized He Xianglan was Wei Lin's first love. She was the niece of Wei Lin's academic dean at Whampoa Military Academy, daughter of a prominent banker. Born into aristocracy with considerable wealth, her striking beauty made her the campus heartthrob. Such a privileged princess was destined for an equally exceptional match. He Xianglan quickly noticed the dashing Wei Lin, and their whirlwind romance became the talk of the campus, until the outbreak of the War of Resistance against Japan. Ho Hyunglan's father infuriated the Chinese people by collaborating with the Japanese and smuggling large quantities of cultural relics, to evade retribution. The Ho family fled en masse to the United States. Ho Hyunglan was a Western-educated woman with an adventurous spirit. She studied film directing in America, being the only female student in her class. After graduating from the Whampoa Military Academy, Wei Lin joined the revolution as a Kuomintang officer. The two went their separate ways from then on. It wasn't until the victory of the anti-Japanese War in 1945 that He Xianglan returned to Guangzhou from the United States. It was at this time that they reconnected and rekindled their romantic relationship. I still remember when Wei Lin and I got married. He Xianglan sent wedding gifts all the way from America, but Wei Lin secretly hid them from me. I never found out what she had sent. That was until Wei Lin got wounded by artillery fire during a battle and lay unconscious for days, pregnant and under Japanese bombardment. I traveled from our southern military dependence village to the northern front line, keeping vigil by his hospital bedside for 7 days and nights. While sorting through Wei Lin's belongings, I discovered he carried an American pocket watch. It had been shattered by the explosion, revealing an old photograph inside, a photo of He Xianglan. In the small portrait, the woman's jet black hair framed her scholarly features as she smiled radiantly. The photo edges bear deep, worn marks from constant handling. 2 lines of delicate handwriting grace its back: "No matter whom you marry, your heart must forever belong to me, from Xianglan, with devotion." This was He Xianglan's wedding gift to Wei Lin, a letter delivered on his wedding day, warning him never to forget her, demanding she remain etched in his heart daily, and Wei Lin honored that very promise. Not a single day passed without him clutching it close to his heart. The moment I saw that photo, everything became clear. Wei Lin didn't marry me out of love. He was seeking solace in a substitute. The photo in the locket bore an uncanny resemblance to a movie poster I'd once shot for, titled "The Spirit of the Pear Maiden." Dazed and heartbroken, I tried to stand but my legs gave way, sending me crashing to the ground in an instant. Crimson blood instantly gushed between my legs. That year, I lost our only child, and with it, the chance to ever become a mother. Don't grieve, we're still young, we'll have another chance. I kept this photo simply because she bears such resemblance to your old poster. To me, she's practically looking at you. These were Wei Lin's comforting words to me after the miscarriage. She resembles me. What an absolute joke. Everyone knew Wal married me because I resembled her. Wal and I met in 1940, that year. He came searching for me at the film studio clutching a poster of Soul of the Pear Blossom, drawing flocks of curious actresses who rushed to catch a glimpse. I was 19 years old and working as an actor at Mingxing Film Company. Due to my photogenic appearance, singing ability, and willingness to endure hardships, I starred in several revolutionary films that were difficult to shoot. These were roles that famous actresses were unwilling to take on, poor and downtrodden characters. The most famous among them was The Soul of the Pear Lady. In the film, I played a prostitute saved by a wealthy young master, who endured a lifetime of suffering. After receiving new ideological education, she actively fought against her fate and eventually became a respected female teacher. This film caused a small stir at the time. Among those who came to see me out of admiration was Wei Lin. But I didn't know then that Wei Lin was searching for me because I resembled his unattainable beloved by 7 points in the movie poster. I only know that Wei Lin is handsome and dashing, young and promising, an outstanding graduate of Whampoa, and a hero in the hearts of countless young girls. However, even without all that, after seeing his face and learning that he came from the Wei family of Huainan, I had already made up my mind about him. Wei Lin's father passed away a few years ago, and his family consists only of his mother and a younger sister, both of whom are strongly opposed to me. The Weijia family of Huainan was once a scholarly lineage, though now in decline. They pride themselves on their virtuous family traditions and look down upon actors like me who appear in public. In their eyes, actors are no better than performers, and making movies is a lowly profession second only to selling one's body. They have always hoped their son could marry a daughter from a prominent and wealthy family, for example, He Xianglan. To this day, they still hope that He Xianglan will return from America with a substantial dowry to marry into the Wei family. After learning that the Wei family was short of money and couldn't afford to send their daughter-in-law to a girls' school, I immediately quit my job at the film company. I took all the performance fees I had earned over the years, knelt before my mother-in-law, and offered her the tea of respect. Mom, Lai Ying is retiring from acting and will stay home to support her husband, raise children, and take care of you and my sister-in-law. This is the money I've saved over the years, all for you as a token of my filial piety. I saved $200 silver my entire life, and I gave them all to my mother-in-law. Seeing that I retired from acting and gave her the money, my mother-in-law finally accepted me. Thanks to this money, Wei Min, my husband's younger sister, escaped the fate of becoming a widow's second wife and was able to continue her education at a girls' school. Wei Lin was away fighting most of the year, rarely at home. I took care of my mother-in-law and sister-in-law, an old woman and a young girl. all by myself for 8 long years. I brought home 2 fish, placed them on the chopping board, and asked Zhang Ma to make fish soup for dinner. After Wei Lin rose to a high position in the military, life became more comfortable, and we acquired a mansion and servants. I returned to my bedroom and retrieved several stacks of movie scripts from a hidden compartment. These were all left over from when I used to make movies. Among the scripts were a few old photos from the film set. The footage is grainy and black and white, yet it remains the most vivid memory of my life. On the set of Three Sisters, there were 3 girls with short bobs and radiant smiles. On the set of Top Gun, young women and villagers worked together to protect their village and fight against the enemy. On the set of Soul of the Pear Lady, there's a close-up of my profile. With a resolute expression and eyes that carry the weight of time, I set aside the other 2 and picked up the photo of the 3 sisters. The film was cancelled for release immediately after shooting because one of the actors was exposed as a communist. As a result, many people are unaware of this film. The laughter of the 3 girls transcended the lens and the passage of time. It came into view before me. The girls, wearing worn military coats, stood energetically on stage for their performance report. It seemed as if someone was calling me, "Little Shadow, Little Shadow." I couldn't help wiping away a tear and flipping the photo over. There are 3 girls' names written on it, from left to right: Xing Chunming, Wei Shui, Li Ying, Xiao Yinger. The voice pierced through their shattered faces, gripping me tightly. It had been such a long time since anyone knew my name. Zhang, Sister Wei, I miss you all so much. Tears instantly fell. At that moment, Zhang Ma suddenly knocked on the door. "Madam, the military commander asks you to come down to receive the guests." "Got it." I wiped away my tears, reapplied my makeup, and did my best to hide the signs of my recent crying. Wei Lin mentioned that they would be hosting a group of fellow graduates from Whampoa over the next couple of days. I hurried downstairs and, surrounded by a group of tall military officers, I spotted a graceful woman with long hair down to her waist. "He Xianglan." She looked up and smiled at me. "Oh, sister-in-law. You're here." I nodded slightly. She turned to face the crowd, immediately putting on a disdainful expression. "How dare you monkeys say she looks like me? Do I look that poor?" She turned her face away, her gaze falling on the tea in her hand. "What kind of movie star? Just a cheap imitation." Just as she was saying this, Wei Lin returned. Seeing me and He Xianglan standing in the same space, he avoided eye contact, not daring to look at me. He Xianglan smiled and approached, naturally taking Wei Lin's military coat as he removed it, then tossed it to me. "Hang it up." As if he were the lady of the house, I stood frozen in place. Everyone else seemed unfazed. It was almost routine. I realized these were my peers from Guangzhou. They should have known about Wei Lin and He Xianglan's affair. I didn't say much, just hung my coat back in the room. When I returned to the dining room, the dishes were already served. He Xianglan was seated next to Wei Lin on her left and her mother-in-law and sister-in-law on her right. They looked like a real family. He Xianglan chatted and laughed with her mother-in-law as if they were real mother and daughter, while her sister-in-law buzzed around her, asking about her experiences studying in the United States. Seeing me enter, He Xianglan spoke again in the tone of a hostess. "Sister-in-law, come in, sit wherever you like." Wei Lin said nothing, allowing me to be ordered around by He Xianglan. I moved to the farthest seat from them and sat down, watching that family of 4. I thought, this might be the life Wei Lin dreams of leading once he returns to Taiwan. Someone at the table asked, "Xianglan, did you come to Shanghai specifically to see Wei Lin off?" "See him off? Of course not." He Xianglan's eyes flicked over me, a sly smile on her face. "I'm leaving the mainland too." Everyone started asking, "Are you going to Hong Kong?" "Hong Kong? No way. She just came back from studying abroad. She's definitely going back to the U.S. He Xianglan took a couple of sips of tea. "It's Taiwan, Taiwan." A few people exchanged meaningful glances and smiled knowingly. Everyone knew that her trip to Taiwan at this time must be related to Wei Lin. "Ah, that's true. With your high qualifications, you should get a great deal there." "Who cares about that?" He Xianglan didn't care much. "If it weren't for Ah Lin, why would I have to endure this hardship? If I went back to the US, my parents would have everything ready for me by now. Your family is so wealthy. Coming back to Taiwan must really be a sacrifice for you. Forget it. Ah Lin and I don't need to worry about these things." He Xianglan leaned on Wei Lin's side and started to act coquettishly. "Ah Lin, you can't let me down again." They started flaunting their affection right in front of me. Everyone's eyes were on me, waiting to see my reaction, but I remained silent. He Xianglan looked at me. "I heard that sister-in-law isn't coming this time." Wei Lin set down his glass of wine and gave me an awkward glance. I silently stared at Wei Lin, waiting to see how he would explain himself to me. He cleared his throat awkwardly. Lying. There are limited tickets for the retreat to Taiwan. Xianglan is a highly educated talent, and the higher-ups want her to return to Taiwan for diplomatic work. I'll first settle Xianglan in Taiwan, and then figure out a way to bring you back, later. Before I could react, Xianglan exclaimed, "Oh dear. I hear we'll have to take a boat later. It's old and rickety. And we'll have to squeeze in with a bunch of commoners. Sister-in-law, can you handle this kind of hardship?" Her mother-in-law waved her hand dismissively. "Oh, she's different from you. She's a commoner by birth, not some noble lady. She's a refugee from the northeast. What kind of hardships hasn't she faced? It's just a boat ride." Weimin, upon hearing she had to take a boat to Taiwan, was so scared she threw herself into Xianglan's arms. "Sister Lan, I don't want to take a boat to Taiwan. I refuse to squeeze together with those lowly people. If sister-in-law wants to take a boat, let her go alone." Xianglan was delighted to have given me a taste of her power and quickly moved on to a new topic. She talked about her experiences and observations during her years studying in the United States. She had traveled across Europe, made a few avant-garde films, and was recognized by the renowned playwright Brecht, becoming his only female disciple. During vacations, she would join her classmates on study tours to the Soviet Union, watching movies during the day and ballets at night. Everyone listened with great interest, as if they were watching a completely different world. These years, the world has been at war. Only a few countries like the United States have escaped the ravages of war, while we were struggling to survive, living rough, and fighting our enemies until we were bloodied and battered. She was enjoying her carefree and beautiful youth in a peaceful world. Wei Min was spellbound. "Sister Xianglan, have you seen Gone with the Wind in America? Was Vivian Lee beautiful?" Xianglan smirked. "Vivian Lee, she was an absolutely stunning beauty. I even interviewed her as a student representative. Actually, her most classic work is Anna Karenina." I chuckled. Xianglan's face turned cold. "What are you laughing at?" Everyone's eyes turned to me. I took a sip of wine. "It's nothing. Your experiences are rich, and I'm envious." Wei Min immediately chimed in. "My sister-in-law has also acted in movies, but they're all those tacky ones that no one in our family likes to watch." Xianglan got fired up and asked me, "Do you even know what a movie is?" My mother-in-law immediately agreed. "She's just an actress. How would she understand these artistic matters? Movies, she can barely read." The room erupted in laughter. Wei Lin murmured, "Lying never had much schooling. Don't take it to heart." But Xianglan wouldn't let it go. "How could that be? I heard that your sister-in-law was quite a star back in the day on the Shanghai stage." Brecht, Stanislavski, as an actor, you must have heard of the two major acting systems in the world, right? Everyone here is waiting to see me make a fool of myself. At this moment, Zhang Ma entered the dining room to pour wine for everyone. One of them jokingly said, "Ask her." "You might as well ask Zhang Ma." There was another huge burst of laughter. I'm overwhelmed, esteemed military officers and ladies, Mrs. Zhang retreated nervously, nodding and chuckling awkwardly. My fingers tightened around the wine glass as my gaze swept across the room before settling on Xianglan's face. "You're mistaken." The burst of laughter gradually died down. Xianglan frowned, thinking she must have misheard. "What did you say?" I said. "You're mistaken." I raised my voice and repeated it to her again. "There aren't two global performance systems, there are three. Besides Brecht and Stanislavski, there's also Mei Lanfeng from China." Xianglan's expression was stunned, but she quickly resumed her mocking tone. "A Peking opera performer. How dare you compare him to internationally renowned masters? If you're uneducated, that's fine, but don't fabricate such a huge joke, do you?" "I'm not making this up, it's the truth. Where's the evidence? Do you think just by opening your mouth, a performer can leap from the lower ranks to the realm of art?" She held her head high, like a swan, disdainful of stooping to glance at the mud of the world. I tilted my head back and downed a shot of strong liquor, looking at her intently. "You claim to be Brecht's student, and yet you don't know the three major acting systems your teacher personally endorsed." Xianglan's expression clearly showed panic. She chuckled. "The three major acting systems? What nonsense is that? You've never even set foot outside the country, yet you're spouting this rubbish." Perhaps it was the strong liquor, but I was starting to feel a bit tipsy. "Starting tonight, I refused to endure endlessly. I'd been to the Soviet Union." My voice was clear, and everyone present heard it. "Huh, she said she's been to the Soviet Union. Come on, her. She's never even been to Suzhou, has she?" My thoughts drifted away from the cacophony of ridicule, back to that winter, 3 girls were studying acting at the Moscow Film Academy. After class, we had a snowball fight outside our dorm. Returning to my cozy little house in the evening, I sneak a taste of the Russians' favorite whiskey. Then I get a fiery face from the burn, Sing Chunming said. I like the Soviet Union because it feels like Yenin, a world created by the working people, Wei Shui said. A new world will be created by us, and one day, it will surely come. That year I was 15, a little kid at the film company, always tagging along behind my 2 older sisters. I didn't know what Yenin was, nor did I understand the kind of world they wanted to create. All I knew was that I liked being with them, and with them I always felt safe. Memories flitted by like butterflies in the rain, then quickly flew away. I snapped back to reality and looked around at everyone. In 1936, Mingxing Film Company sent me to the Moscow Film Institute to study acting. I spent a year there. Both Brecht and Stanislavski taught acting classes there. They appreciated Chinese Peking opera, respected and recognized Master Mei Lanfeng's performances, and promoted it as the world's 3rd major performance system. I don't speak English. And I don't know as many words as you do. Perhaps, I really don't understand movies as well as you do. However, in 1939, the film I starred in won an honorary award at the Moscow International Film Festival, which was personally presented to me by your teacher. The room fell silent. Even Wei Lin looked at me with some surprise. I set down my glass, stared into He Xianglan's panicked eyes, and reminded her. Also, Vivian Lee never starred in Anna Karenina. That was Greta Garbo's film. Don't mix them up again. The proud gaze, sharp as a falcon's, instantly went blank. Her face turned pale, and in the awkward stares of the crowd, her expression began to twist with rage. He Xianglan stood up and unexpectedly splashed a cup of cold wine in my face. You lowly wretch, a destitute orphan girl from the Northeast, how could you possibly understand these things? Let me tell you, art belongs to people like us who are educated and knowledgeable. You lowly people will never be worthy of understanding it. I gave a cold smile. Human civilization evolved from a slave society to the industrial era. The creators of all this were never the high and mighty elite, but the common people who bow to the masses. They are laborers, farmers, and every ordinary person like me. Art originates from the people and belongs to the people. I can't be bothered to argue with these young masters and ladies, Miss He, if that's how you understand art. Then you truly don't belong in this land, you. He Xianglan pulled Wei Lin, tears streaming down her face, crying loudly, Ah Lin, look at the wonderful wife you married. It's my first day here, and she's already bullying me. If we go to Taiwan later, she'll probably ostracize me to death. Forget it, what a lousy Taiwan, I might as well not go. I'm calling my parents right now to tell them I want to go back to the U.S. He Xianglan left the restaurant before I could. Everyone looked at each other, and eventually, all eyes fell on Wei Lin. Wei Lin, hurry up and go after her. Try to calm her down. You know Alan's temper. She only listens to you. Wei Lin hesitated for a moment before glancing at me. I was struggling to wipe the water stains off my face. He noticed my disheveled state but said nothing, unwaveringly chasing after her. Amidst the murmurs of the crowd, I never raised my head. Maybe at this moment, my heart has already died. Wei Lin didn't come back all night. Only one bedside lamp was on in the bedroom, and I sat alone on the bed, flipping through the script I found earlier today. These seemingly ordinary characters are crucial for maintaining contact with my organization. By using Morse code, we find the corresponding characters and assemble them into messages we exchange. This is what Zhang and Sister Wei taught me. In the process of recording intelligence for them, I gradually learned to read. He Xianglan wasn't wrong. I was indeed an uneducated wretch. That year when the Northeast fell, I was only 10, barely finishing 3rd grade. My family fled south, and when we reached Beijing, it was just my mother and me left. She was an actress. Besides singing opera, she couldn't do anything else. Throughout this journey, we survived by begging, but it was Mom's singing for the elders that kept me alive. However, Mom always came back exhausted after each performance. Her body felt like it was falling apart. And she was always in low spirits. Even when she wasn't happy, Mom would never forget to bring me back a sugar-coated Haas on a stick and 2 steamed buns. She would hold me in her arms. Little Yinger, eat slowly. Later, Mom's health started to deteriorate. Her smooth, firm skin began to fester and ooze everywhere. Nails and hair began to fall out. Lying in bed, on the brink of death, I couldn't bear to watch my mother die like this. So I dismantled the door, placed my mother on it, and carried her around seeking medical help. The winters in Beiping are bitterly cold. My 10 fingers were red, swollen, and cracked all over. The blood would flow, then quickly freeze. Once frozen, any movement of the fingers would deepen the wounds. That's how I, with my mother on my back, walked through Beiping in the winter with temperatures below -10 degrees. I kowtowed to many doctors, begging them to save my mother, but each of them just glanced and waved their hand, saying it was hopeless. I was heartbroken, but could only bury my face in my scarred hands, afraid my mother would see me cry, "Get out of here, don't block the shop entrance and ruin my business, blame your mother for being dirty, that's why she got this filthy disease." I cried while shaking my head. What they said is wrong. How could my mother be dirty? She was the fairest and purest woman I have ever seen. Seeing that I refused to leave, the doctor ordered a few strong assistants to throw me out. Punches and kicks rained down on my frail body. I desperately shielded my dying mother, covered in blood from head to toe. "Stop, is this how you bully someone?" Suddenly, someone shouted loudly from the roadside. The fists instantly stopped. A few guys turned their heads to look. It turned out to be two girls in school uniforms. This was my first encounter with them. In 1935, I was 14 years old, and Zheng Chunming and Wei Shui were 18. They are students from Peking University. One is studying medicine, the other law. Together, they pooled their money to get their mother admitted to the hospital. Zheng Chunming told me that their mother has a very serious sexually transmitted disease. I have to take a very expensive medication called penicillin, which is almost impossible to find in the country. However, she has a friend in Shanghai who specializes in importing medicines. They are heading to Shanghai for an important meeting and can bring the medication back for me. I am deeply grateful and want to buy gifts for these two kind sisters, but when I checked my 4 tattered pockets, I realized I had no money at all, so I had to say, "Sisters, my mother always told me, if someone does you a favor, you should repay it. Little Yinger is foolish, with no money and no skills, but I did learn some Peking opera from my mom. If you two sisters like it, shall I sing a piece for you?" Wei Shui and Zheng Chunming exchanged a smile. Zheng Chunming looked into my nervous eyes and comforted me. "This time in Shanghai, we're going to do something significant, perhaps no less important than going to battle. Little Yinger, sing us a bit of Mu Guiying takes command to boost our morale." "Sure." I immediately assumed the posture, transforming into the heroic female General Mu Guiying ready for battle. "This time we've arrived in Liaodong. Let's strive to defeat the enemy and quell the rebellion. When we return victorious, the common people will find peace. Along the way, we must buy and sell fairly, and not disturb the good citizens." The two listened with great interest, clapping and praising. Wei Shui gave me a thumbs up. "Little Yinger, you sang really well." As we left, I asked them, "Sisters, the doctor said Mom is very dirty. Is that true?" As Zhang stepped forward, leaned down to shield me in his arms, and cursed, "Screw them, they're the filthy ones." Wei Shui stroked my hair. "Little Yinger, it's this predatory society that's dirty, not your mom." They left. They never came back for a long time. A mysterious friend brought me back 2 bottles of penicillin and $15 a month later. I asked the mysterious person, "Where did a Zhang and Sister Wei go?" The mysterious figure didn't even turn around and hid in the shadows. He told me that the sisters were going to do something very important. "This is very dangerous. They might return soon, or they might never come back." I took a deep breath, praying for my 2 sisters day and night in my heart. You must survive." 3 major events happened later. Mingxing Film Company has released the movie Sisters, which will be screened nationwide, starring newcomers Zheng Chunming and Wei Shui. The Beijing Daily published an article about the death of a Japanese diplomat from drug poisoning, which has drawn high attention from the Shanghai police. The incident is initially believed to be the work of the Communist Party, and the police will investigate rigorously. Also, my mother passed away. After taking penicillin, my mother's condition improved, but the medication ran out quickly, and her condition began to deteriorate again. 2 doses of penicillin bought my mother another 6 months. Maybe my mother didn't want to be a burden to me. When she passed away, I still had a little money left. This amount of money isn't enough for me to live in Beijing for half a month, but it just happens to cover the train ticket from Beijing to Shanghai. In the fall of 1935, I buried my mother. I arrived in Shanghai alone. The next day, I woke up to the afternoon sun. I have no idea how long I slept. My head feels heavy and foggy. I turned around and found the script on the desk was gone. I searched the room for a long time, but it was nowhere to be found. In an instant, my heart sank to the bottom. I threw on a coat and hurried downstairs, but I saw a crowd surrounding He Xionglan, all gathered in the living room, listening to her read the script out loud. "Hey, why are so many words circled? This is bad." My brow furrowed, my foot still rested on the step, hesitant to move. Several people present had received formal military education. I wasn't sure if the traces on the script would arouse their suspicion. Surrounded, let me take a look. These words don't seem to have any context. Maybe they're unfamiliar. We should look them up in a dictionary. Ha 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 ha. I clenched my fists amidst the laughter of the crowd. With my last shred of reason, I rushed forward and snatched the script back. But He Xianglan refused to give it to me. This is what Ao Lin gave me. What right do you have to take it away? I glared fiercely at Wei Lin, unable to contain my anger as I shouted, why did you give it to her? It's just some worthless script, no big deal. Why are you yelling? Xianglan is our guest. I rushed downstairs before I even had time to change out of my pajamas. Wei Lin's eyes swept over me from head to toe. Look at yourself. Is this any way for a proper wife to behave? A bone-chilling despair swept through my chest. In this household, no one would ever stand up for me. In a sudden fit of rage, I shoved He Xianglan to the ground, pinned her beneath me, and desperately fought to reclaim that script. Everyone rushed over to break up the fight. Give it back. No way, you give it back right now. Fine, keep it, it's mine anyway. Your husband, your script, your title as his wife, they were all rightfully mine. Wei Lin lunged at me, pinning me down with such force that I couldn't move. Want it? In the brief pause, He Xianglan struggled to her feet and leaned over me. The next instant, she tore the script clean in half. Listen well, what He Xianglan, can't obtain, you'll never be worthy of. Stop, I screamed myself hoarse trying to stop her, yet nothing could prevent her from tearing the script to shreds. Yellowed paper fragments scattered across the floor, more merciless than the snowflakes on Beiping streets that year. In an instant, it felt like a razor-sharp dagger pierced my heart. With red-rimmed eyes, I stared resolutely at Wei Lin. Why? I whispered the question. Why did you give her my things? Why marry me when your heart belongs to her? Why won't you let her go even after marrying me? Why? I shouted accusingly. Amidst the yelling, Wei Lin averted his gaze. Lying. Stop this nonsense. You've gone too far. Hunched over, Aunt Zhang fetched the dustpan and broom to sweep up the shredded paper. Her aged voice trembled as she spoke. Madam, it's getting late. The fish market will soon close. I scarcely remember how I fled that day, on the streets of Shanghai. One could spot a disheveled woman in purple pajamas fleeing frantically from the Wei residence. A woman gone mad, walking through the grimy market in a daze, came to a halt before a fish stall tucked away in a remote corner, voice trembling and choked with emotion. Boss, I'd like to buy 2 fish, right away. Ma'am, would you like grass carp or yellow croaker? After a brief hesitation, I replied, yellow croaker, please. The shopkeeper's smile faltered momentarily before quickly returning. Excellent, the yellow croakers are in the back. Come right this way. I'll pick out 2 fresh ones for you. That's our secret code. Buying yellow croaker means plans have changed. We need to scheme urgently. Inside was a sealed compartment, the pungent stench of fish assaulting my nostrils. You're saying the script got destroyed? I nodded slightly. My apologies, that was careless of me. But nobody noticed what that script was actually for. Gufei merely pondered for a moment without reprimanding me. Understood, don't worry. I'll immediately notify the higher-ups about replacing the translation. If any assignments come up, I'll get you the revised version. I gave a slight nod. Also, the organization approved that matter you entrusted me with. Gufei deftly scooped out 2 yellow croakers. The plane tickets are inside the fish belly. Keep them safe. Tomorrow night, you'll fly from Shanghai to Yan'an. A comrade will be there to meet you. I grasped the fish firmly, as if clutching the hope of my remaining years. Thank you. Thank you. My voice caught slightly. On my way home, I hailed a rickshaw, but the moment I sat down, it suddenly hit me. He Xianglan was still at home. I couldn't possibly face these people looking like this, and clutching this fish in my hands. It was completely out of character with today's events, enough to raise suspicions. Madam, where would you like to go? To Star Film Company. No. 7. Guizhou Road. The rickshaw puller hesitated momentarily. Madam, Star Film Company went out of business years ago. No. 7. Guizhou Road now houses the China South Sea Bank. The rickshaw puller's words jogged my memory, shortly after I retired from acting. War engulfed Shanghai, forcing Mingxing Film Company to declare bankruptcy. Seeing me standing speechless, the rickshaw puller pressed further. Madam, shall we still go? I heard the 4th floor preserves the original site of the film company. Would Madam like to take a look? Hearing this, a weight lifted off my shoulders. All right, let's go see. Everything on the 4th floor feels hauntingly familiar, yet this familiarity, like my memories, carries the weight of passing years. Dust-covered dressing rooms, shattered mirrors, dilapidated furniture, broken camera tripods, and discarded film reels scattered everywhere. This place was once Shanghai's most avant-garde cultural hub, yet all I see before me is a single sentence: the nation falls, but the land remains. Sitting before the vanity mirror, shattered glass reflects countless fractured versions of myself. At 14, fueled by youthful passion, I journeyed south alone to storm the gates of Star Motion Picture Company. During the audition, the director asked me why I wanted to become an actor. I pointed at the Twin Blossoms poster on the wall and said, "I want to be like them." The poster featured Xing Chunming and Wei Shui. "What can you do?" "I can perform Chinese opera. How about Lady Xiaojun Beyond the Frontier?" This is Shang Xiaoyun's signature piece, showcasing the martial-style interpretation of civil opera, mimicking my mother's portrayal of Wang Xiaojun. I straightened my posture with fingertips grazing my cheek, eyes shimmering with emotion. My heart suddenly overflowed with childhood sorrows of fleeing northeast, a bitterness as poignant as Princess Ming's legendary exile beyond the frontier. In the blink of an eye, my homeland vanishes like scattered clouds. This grief feels like gazing toward Chang'an from Yanmen Pass. Even the 12 witch peaks remain forever beyond reach. Farewell, my lord. With Pipa in arms, through howling western winds we tread barbarian dust, though countless armored warriors fill the court. History's true saviors wear silken skirts. The director's gaze gradually shifted from initial indifference to astonishment. "That'll do," the director called cut, and my singing came to an abrupt halt. "How old are you?" I clasped my hands behind my back, pinching my fingertips hard. 14. The director's skeptical gaze lingered on my scrawny frame. He probably thought I was only 10. "Can you do farm work, plant crops in the fields, haul boats by the river, or sing for coins under bridges?" Tilting my head with childlike innocence, I asked, "Do you pay wages? $1 a day, a whole $1 every day? That's more than Mom earned stitching shawls for a whole month." I looked up at the director with pleading eyes. "I'll do anything." A faint smile played on the director's lips, thoroughly pleased. "What's your name?" "My surname is Li, with Ing as my given name, meaning intelligent." "Li Ing." The director pondered for a moment. "That's far too ordinary for someone like you. Since you come from the opera world, you shall be called Pear Shadow. Go register over there. Someone will show you to the dormitory later." Pear Shadow, that name would stay with me for half a lifetime. It rewrote my ordinary life script into an epic tale of twists and turns, life and death. Pear Shadow, that name surfaced across the vast expanse of time, like being halted mid-reincarnation by someone from a past life. I turned around. The figure stood shrouded in the doorway's shadow. The familiarity was so overwhelming that I blurted out the improbable name, Director Kai. The figure stepped out from the shadows. Upon closer look, it wasn't Director Kai, just a middle-aged woman. The figure felt hauntingly familiar yet utterly foreign. "Zhejiang Mama." I couldn't contain my astonishment. Aunt Zhang walked in, suddenly standing straight with nimble movements, as if she'd shed 20 years. It instantly reminded me of how she'd abruptly appeared that morning to swiftly handle the torn script. I tentatively asked, "Are you one of us?" She gave a slight nod, scanned the room, and whispered, 3 years ago. "Xing Chunming sent me to protect you, 3 years ago." But Xing Chunming and Wei Shui sacrificed their lives 10 years back. Ozing's still alive, like clinging to survival instinct. I stubbornly pressed for answers. Mother Zhang's face remained still as stagnant water as she shook her head. "Where is she? Can you take me to see her?" Mother Zhang shook her head again. "She's my superior, but I haven't seen her in 10 years. We only communicate through intelligence channels. Nobody knows her current whereabouts. Her existence is the organization's highest classified secret. I came to warn you." He Xianglan's family is carrying nearly half the national treasury funds. The organization absolutely cannot let her defect to Taiwan. Right now, Wei Lin has people searching everywhere for you. We're using this window to mobilize our operatives. My heart sank. "You're saying there's no way He Xianglan can make it to Taiwan?" Aunt Zhang nodded. "So you needn't worry about her interfering in your marriage. The higher-ups asked me to confirm with you once more. Are you still determined to go to Yan'an? If you wish to follow Wei Luan back to Taiwan, there's still time." I was about to speak. The sudden rhythmic stomp of military boots echoed from downstairs. Someone was coming to inspect. "The mistress isn't here. Check the 4th floor." That was Wei Lin's voice. I quickly pulled Auntie Zhang behind me and whispered urgently, "I'm going to Yan'an. Nothing will change that, whether He Xianglan exists or not. This marriage built on lies isn't worth preserving any longer. Besides, I've got far more important pursuits awaiting me in the second half of my life." Madame Zhang gave me a knowing look. "Understood," before I could react. Nanny Zhang had already scrambled out through the narrow window with startling agility. The next instant, Wei Lin strode in wearing full military regalia. Behind him marched his elite troops in perfect formation. His gaze darkened when he saw me standing there, shadows pooling beneath his eyes. The battle-hardened aura radiating from him was so intense it sent involuntary shivers down my spine. "We found Madam. Have them bring the car around." He took off his military coat and draped it over my trembling frame. "I've already arranged for Xianglan to be escorted back to the hotel." Lying. "Come home with me." "Stop this nonsense." A wave of absurd heartache washed over me. 9 years ago, he took me home from this very spot. He said, "Come with me. I'll protect you for the rest of our lives." I instinctively took a step back. "Do you really think I'm the one making trouble?" he said with utter calmness. "That's irrelevant." I broke free from his embrace. "Then what really matters? Your future with He Xianglan." Wei Lin's gaze fixed on me, settling on the couple of fish I was carrying. His expression softening noticeably. "Why did you buy yellow croakers today?" I instinctively moved the fish behind my back. "Even grass carp gets old. Time for something different." His lips pressed thinly together, like a man conceding his last bargaining chip. Laying, "I've secured an extra flight ticket. You're coming to Taiwan with us." As he spoke, Wei Lin slipped the boarding pass into my shirt pocket. "For the sake of our 8 years together, please stop this. I know you're acting out because you can't bear to see me go, can't bear to see you leave." "Who told you that?" Wei Lin looked startled, visibly perplexed by my retort. "The team's making their move at the hotel right now. I need to buy them as much time as possible, so I decided to seize this moment to have a proper talk with Wei Lin." "Going to Taiwan with you?" I gave a bitter smile. "I just want to know, what exactly is the relationship between me, you, and He Xianglan?" Wei Lin shook his head helplessly. "You're overthinking it. Xianglan has too much self-respect. She'd never accept that kind of arrangement." "Is that so?" I kept walking ahead. "So you think I should just accept this status? You only married me because my poster bore some resemblance to He Xianglan, didn't you?" Lying. "How could you think that of me? Isn't it true? Search your conscience. These past 8 years, have you loved me? Or just the shadow of He Xianglan you saw in me?" The question seemed to strike at Wei Lin's deepest wound. "It's fine," I said with cold finality. "I never loved you anyway." Wei Lin's expression instantly became flustered. "What nonsense are you spouting?" "I've never spoken nonsense to you, not in the past, and never will," I said coldly, stopping at the end of the hallway. "Besides, I'm perfectly fine with you leaving. Don't kid yourself." Lying. "How's an uneducated woman like you supposed to survive in these chaotic times without me?" I couldn't help but laugh at myself inwardly. For 8 years of marriage, this man has never respected me as an equal. He's always believed I'm some uneducated woman who owes her current life to him, that without him, I'd be nothing. I lifted my chin with the same defiant pride as that stubborn girl in the film Soul of the Pear Blossom. "Long before I met you, I was perfectly capable of supporting myself. Have you forgotten that this household was built on my earnings in the first place?" Wei Lin's brows knitted in surprise at my words. Through 8 years of marriage, I'd given my all without complaint. He probably never imagined I'd say something like this one day. "You're insane, completely out of your mind." When a man can neither outreason nor outlove a woman, his last resort is to call her mad. A subordinate rushed upstairs, brushing past me. "Commander, Miss He's been assassinated at the hotel." Wei Lin turned pale with shock. "How could your security detail fail like this?" He gave me a complicated look and said, "You go home first." Then he hurried downstairs toward the hotel. The driver glanced at me in the distance and turned to ask Wei Lin in the back seat, "Commander, your wife hasn't boarded yet. Head to the Peace Hotel first. Let her go on her own. As long as we've found her, everything's fine." The military vehicle kicked up swirling yellow sand before vanishing from sight, leaving me standing alone. Back in the kitchen, I slit open the fish with a blade and quickly retrieved the plane tickets. I carefully compared the 2 tickets in my hand. Both are scheduled for tomorrow evening, one bound for Taiwan, the other for Yan'an. I carefully smoothed out the water stains and creases on the ticket surfaces. Maid Zhang called from outside the door. "Madam, the general is on the line requesting your presence." "Got it." I stuffed the processed ticket into my pocket and handed the clean one to Auntie Zhang. We nodded in silent understanding and tucked away each other's tickets. Wei Lin's voice sounded urgent over the phone. Lying. "What did you mean by what you said this afternoon? What do you mean by accepting my departure? You have no education, no cultural background, nothing. Where could you possibly go without me? Promise me you'll stay home. I'll send someone to pick you up tomorrow. Meet me at the airport." "Got it." I didn't argue back. As soon as he finished speaking, I hung up. The next day, Wei Lin called again. Lean, I owe you an apology. I was wrong before, I neglected your feelings, but please believe me, I truly love you. You were never anyone's replacement. Be good now. Let's make this work and build a life together. Didn't you always want children? We could adopt war orphans from the shelter when the time comes. Alright, Lean, are you even listening to me? You must come back to Taiwan with me. I need you. Mom and Xiaoman need you. This family can't go on without you. The only reason I brought Xianglan along is because the higher-ups covet the He family's money. I hung up the phone before he could finish speaking. I started packing my belongings in haste. Living frugally all these years, I've never managed to save up any jewelry for myself. These days, paper money is practically worthless. If only I had some gold or silver trinkets. Those would be worth something to donate to the Yan'an Women's Federation and Children's Foundation. As I packed my belongings, my mother-in-law and sister-in-law stood by sneering. Well, aren't you eager to pack up and leave, ready to abandon your own home? Huh, Big Brother is taking Sister Ellen to Taiwan. What business is it of yours? There's no spot for you anyway. Just behave yourself and come with us on the boat. With so many things and people in this household, shouldn't you be managing things? Or are you waiting for this old woman to do it? You don't act like a proper wife at all. Remember to get me a first-class ticket. I won't be caught dead traveling with commoners. I raised my head and strode straight toward the mother and daughter. With one swift motion, I yanked the gold necklaces from their throats. These were forged from my own gold bangles years ago. Time they returned to their rightful owner. The mother-in-law shrieked hysterically. How dare you defy me? This is outright rebellion. Wayman raised her arm to strike me, but I seized her wrist and slapped her across the face. That slap was from your sister. Wayman and the mother-in-law exchanged terrified glances. Mom, she knows sister. My mother-in-law pointed a trembling finger at me, stammering, you're Kamu. She couldn't bring herself to finish those two words. Nanny Zhang came up from behind, pressing the gun barrel against the old woman's head. Shut up. The old woman trembled like a leaf. Wei Min was crying hysterically in terror. I stared coldly at the mother and daughter. Where's the gold hidden? They exchanged glances and remained silent. Aunt Zhang pressed the gun barrel harder. Talk, Wei Min finally blurted out. There's a hidden compartment under the shrine. Mom stashed all the valuables there. Just as I suspected. Wei Min, after all these years, she still can't break her habit of betraying family. Madame Zhang tied up the mother and daughter. I found a hidden compartment beneath the shrine containing gold bars and silver dollars, which I promptly loaded into the chest. This is all the dirty money the Wei family has taken in bribes over the years. Every last penny extorted from the common folk must now be returned in full, fully prepared. With our organization's assistance, Aunt Zhang and I boarded the car rushing to the airport. Gunshots echoed relentlessly across the Shanghai Bund at night, refugees scattering everywhere as the air thickened with gunpowder, smoke, and the metallic tang of blood. Yet another sleepless crimson night. May this be the last blood-soaked night? Aunt Zhang asked me on the way. Why not just get rid of those two? Keeping them around is nothing but trouble. Gazing at the fleeting nightscape outside the window, I shook my head. After all, they're Wei Shua's family. I changed into a traditional men's long gown, wearing a felt hat with a fake mustache, pipe in hand and camera slung over my shoulder. I disguised myself as a journalist visiting Yan'an. I appeared at the airport as a man no one would recognize. My opera training made it effortless to mimic a man's gait and posture flawlessly, removing the pipe and felt hat. I produced the documents prepared by our organization and cleared the final checkpoint at the ticket counter. My anxious heart finally settled. I casually took an empty seat and placed the leather case containing gold bars beside my legs. Then, an officer's wife wearing a cheongsam sat down next to me. I stole a nervous glance. She was wearing the very same qipao I'd just taken off. My heart skipped a beat. The woman's figure mirrored mine perfectly, her porcelain skin, her stature. She could have been my doppelganger sitting right beside me. She'd adopted my mannerisms, knees slightly bent inward, hands clasped over them, spine erect, gaze fixed on her toes. Who else but one of the sisters from Twin Blossoms could imitate her to such perfection? The three sisters of Twin Blossoms, one framed by her own family, one now disguised as a man, and one whose whereabouts remain unknown to this day. It must be the missing one. Who else could it be? My voice choked with emotion as I trembled and called out, Zing. Zing remained unmoved, her voice ice cold. Don't you dare look up at me. It was her after all. I immediately suppressed the urge to raise my head, continuing to exhale cigarette smoke. After tonight, Shanghai will be liberated. Our dream is about to come true. Her voice was as cool and detached as ever. You must be wondering why I'm wearing your clothes. Exhaling smoke. I ventured my guess, because you're going to Taiwan. She didn't deny it. Someone has to finish what we started, she continued. With the mainland liberated, Taiwan remains our unfinished business. A tear rolled down my cheek. No matter how many years pass, my dear Ozing remains willing to stake everything when it truly counts, just as before. Yet I know all too well after this farewell lies treacherous political wilderness. Who knows how many years must pass before we meet again? Or perhaps, will we meet again someday? Yesterday's certainty began to waver under today's circumstances. Could I possibly? You can't. She cut me off with icy composure. You can't back out of going to Taiwan with me. Remember, I'm Mrs. Wei now, and you're just the journalist visiting Yan'an. I ordered He Xianlan's assassination. The He family embezzled nearly half the national treasury. We absolutely cannot let her leave the mainland. As head of military intelligence, Wei Lin had no choice at the liberation juncture. He had to return to Taiwan. Before he arrives, I'll board the plane disguised as you. Auntie Zhang will tell him you're already at the airport to ease his mind about boarding. During these 3 hours in flight, I'll work on turning him to our side. My heart skipped a beat. Given Wei Lin's notoriously stubborn temperament, turning him would be no easy feat, and if we can't turn him, Ozing hesitated before replying. Then one of us won't walk away alive. Seeing my stunned silence, she offered unexpected comfort. It's nothing. Revolutions demand sacrifices. Some die so more may live. Listen, Xiaoying, when you reach Yan'an as the drama representative of the Women's Federation, keep singing and performing. I'll be watching and listening from across the sea. Zeng will always be cheering for you. His pipe-holding hand trembled slightly as silent tears streamed down, dampening the shabby mustache at the corners of his mouth. When will we meet again? She chuckled softly. It felt like returning to her carefree youth, that perfect blend of idealism and freedom. Comrade Wu Hao once famously said. She paused. May we meet when China soars atop the world. Zeng glanced at the departure lounge clock and reminded me. It's time for you to leave, little Ling. I wiped the tear stains from my face, adjusted my fake beard, and put on the felt hat. As I walked past her, I responded with these words. Zeng, may we meet again when China soars to greatness. During those hours in flight, memories of the past kept flooding back. After joining the film company, Xing Chunming, Wei Shui and I naturally formed our own circle, bonded by our shared history in Beiping. I willingly became their little tagalong. They treated me like a younger sister, guiding and nurturing me. They taught me how to perform in civilized dramas, helped me recognize unfamiliar words and scripts, and patiently explained the essence of each play to deepen my understanding. This was how I balanced acting with studying, learning characters and life wisdom simultaneously. Mingxing Film Company became my school, those 2 elder sisters my mentors, and the camera lens my examination hall. Those were the happiest days of my life, as I grew up little by little. The twin sisters from the film company gradually became a trio. Truth be told, I'd sensed something mysterious about those 2 much earlier. Though we shared a dormitory, they'd often vanish inexplicably at night and reappear just as mysteriously at dawn. The next day's Shanghai tabloids would inevitably report another dead collaborator. I vaguely sensed they were extraordinary, but as a naive child, I knew nothing of revolution or underground resistance. To me, they were simply righteous heroines fighting injustice, legendary warrior women like Mu Guiying. Keeping their secrets was sacred. I'd sooner die than breathe a word. Deep down, I secretly longed to become a heroine like them someday. How exhilarating it would be to someday move through the night like my sisters, dressed in finery yet scaling rooftops, slicing off the heads of those Japanese devils. Later, the studio offered an opportunity to study at the Moscow Film School. The company was then in a transitional phase. Their star actresses had married, started families, and faded from the spotlight, while the newly recruited talent remained too green. After much deliberation, Director Kai finally settled on us 3 sisters. Only after arriving in Moscow did I realize I was the sole participant actually studying acting. Xing Chunming and Wei Shui weren't enrolled in acting classes. They were sent for internships at military factories instead. Though deeply puzzled, I couldn't extract any substantial information from them. One evening on our way back to the dormitory, the 3 of us strolled down the tree-lined avenue. I excitedly recounted my performance exam, telling them how I'd impressed the judges with Mei Lanfeng's Peking opera masterpiece, Drunken Concubine. It earned me the highest score. Xing Chunming and Wei Shui listened intently, occasionally murmuring words of admiration. But my focus was entirely on them. Their hands bore fresh scars over old calluses that looked like gun grips, their ramrod posture betraying military training. Gathering courage, I tentatively asked, "Sisters, Is the work at the munitions factory really this tough? The two awkwardly clasped their hands behind their backs. Workplace bumps and scrapes come with factory jobs. Now tell us more about your exams. I paused momentarily. Clearing my throat, I steered the conversation elsewhere. I heard several Japanese scholars went missing suddenly the other day. Do you think we'd still be able to return to China if war breaks out? Just as they were approaching the dormitory building, Tsing abruptly stopped in her tracks. Xiaoying, this isn't something you should worry about. Head back to the dorm first. She glanced at her watch quickly before telling Wei Shui and I have night shift later. Wei Shui exchanged a swift glance with Tsing. Yeah. The factory's been swamped with back-to-back orders lately. Feels like war might be coming. She patted my head and said, Little Ling, don't forget to lock the doors and windows tonight. The two were about to leave. Suddenly, several Russian men in black overcoats emerged from the dormitory building. His eyes swept over our faces with wary suspicion. Eastern features were an extreme rarity in Moscow, with Sino-Japanese relations at breaking point and war imminent. All public speculation pointed to Chinese operatives as the killers of Japanese scholars. Encountering 3 Chinese students simultaneously inevitably aroused suspicion. Chinese? Asked the lead Russian man. Wei Shui and Xing Chunming remained remarkably composed. North Koreans, Wei Shui replied. Xing immediately followed up with a few quick phrases in Korean to Wei Shui. The men exchanged uncertain glances, seemingly convinced yet visibly confused by what they couldn't comprehend. Only the lead Russian man maintained a fierce expression, clearly not buying the story so easily. Your student IDs. He extended his hand demandingly. Our IDs plainly stated Chinese nationality. Handing them over would instantly expose us, landing Xing and Wei Shui in custody for their earlier lies. In desperation, Wei Shui turned pale. Gripping my hand, she whispered urgently to Xing in Chinese, Run. They're NKVD, meet at the usual spot, dragging me along. Wei Shui split up with Tsing and vanished swiftly into the dark tree-lined path. We dashed through Moscow streets, dodging pursuers as Wei Shui occasionally drew her pistol to exchange fire with the men chasing us. Several times I felt bullets whizzing past my ears. Had I run any slower, I'd have been dead on the spot. The icy wind cut into my face like a knife. Bang! A bullet came flying toward me, only to be intercepted by Wei Shui's back. She took a bullet to her left shoulder. Her entire arm drenched in blood. We ducked into an alleyway where an Asian-looking young man led us in through the back door. It was a Chinese deli that had already closed for the night. My heart was pounding wildly when, seconds later, Xing climbed deftly through the rear window. The fierce gunfire outside gradually died down, fading into the distance. Narrow escape from the jaws of death, heart-stopping intensity. The 3 of us stood panting wildly with hands on hips, exchanging glances before wordlessly embracing. The man skillfully wielded the scalpel, extracting the bullet from Wei Shui's left shoulder. Wei Shui never cried out once throughout the ordeal, only gripping mine and Xing's hands desperately, her face glistening with suppressed sweat and tears. When the procedure ended, Wei Shui collapsed unconscious immediately. That same day, Xing finally revealed his true identity to me. These 2 female Communist Party members were sent by Comintern for KGB training. Their acting lessons were merely a cover story for border crossing. What they truly mastered was a far deadlier performance, espionage. Days ago, they and several comrades assassinated Japanese scholars who came seeking Soviet military support. Wei Shui's wounded. Your covers are blown. Return to China immediately. The bespectacled man wore black-framed glasses, his scholarly appearance belying an aura of deadly composure. Xing nodded slightly, casting an especially concerned glance my way. Little Linger, this time when we return to China, we won't be going back to Shanghai. We'll head straight to Yan'an to share our training materials with other comrades. Seeing the hesitation in her eyes, I knew she was worried about me. I should return to Shanghai. Director Kai is counting on us to come back and strengthen the company. Don't worry about me, right now, you'll be safest staying in Yan'an. As our parting drew near, Xing Chunming opened his arms and held me tightly in his embrace. Give it your all on stage, little Linger, that way, Wei Jia, and I can always watch you shine. My eyes welled up as I nodded firmly. Shortly after returning to Shanghai in 1937, the full-scale war of resistance against Japan broke out. Beiping, Tianjin, Shijiazhuang, and Taiyuan fell one after another, in just 4 months. North China was completely overrun. Countless Chinese perished under Japanese artillery fire. The flames of war soon engulfed Shanghai, forcing mass evacuations. Mingxing Film Studio was forced to relocate from its original site at No. 7, Guizhou Road, moving inland to cities like Wuhan and Chongqing. Even during their flight, a group of idealistic filmmakers persisted in producing anti-war films, such as the 1938 wartime films Defend Our Land and The 800 Heroes, with harsh conditions, dangerous circumstances, and restricted themes. An increasing number of actors withdrew from the film industry. Under these circumstances, director Kai and I remained committed to frontline creative work, seizing every possible opportunity to keep filming. We were determined to make films that could truly awaken our people and boost morale. Soul of the Pear Blossom was born from this very context. While most films then drew material from warfare, Soul of the Pear Blossom adopted a female perspective, showcasing ordinary people's indomitable revolutionary spirit amidst chaos. The film caused a sensation immediately upon its release. This very film earned me an honorary award at the Moscow International Film Festival. But danger soon came knocking. Japanese officer Matsuya Wayne publicly placed an invitation in newspapers, seeking to enlist China's most famous actress Miss Li Ying for a Japanese film production. The role he invited Miss Rie to portray was that of a comfort woman. This was a blatant insult, trampling upon the dignity of our people. During that period, Japan not only forcibly recruited comfort women from occupied territories, China, the Korean Peninsula, the Philippines, etc., but also aggressively promoted the voluntary enlistment of women from their own country and others to serve as military sex slaves, all under the guise of boosting troop morale and meeting soldiers' needs. They shamelessly glorified this atrocity as some form of selfless devotion. I clutched the newspaper tightly, trembling with rage. When everyone assumed I'd ignore this invitation, I secretly wrote back to Matsuya Wayne, inviting him to attend a Peking opera performance. Meanwhile, I discreetly sent another letter to the Yan'an Women's Federation. The recipients were Wei Shui and Xing Chunming. A week later, Matsuya Wayne arrived as scheduled. There I stood on stage, performing the final theatrical piece of his lifetime. Mu Guiying takes command. 3 cannon blasts roar like thunder beyond the camp gates. From Tianbua Manor strides this loyal defender of the realm. Golden coronet weighs upon my graying temples. Once more I don the battle armor of my prime. The play depicts the aging Mu Guiying hearing 3 cannon blasts outside the military camp, realizing the urgency of war, and deciding to lead troops into battle one final time. Life is but a play. Turbulent times make the grandest stage. Suddenly, the drumbeats erupted like pearls cascading onto a jade plate. Mu Guiying sprang forward with uncanny speed, splitting into 3 identical clones. On stage stood 3 armored replicas of Mu Guiying, each brandishing a spear. Bang, bang, bang. 3 rapid gunshots pierced the scowling head at the theater's center. The gunfire came too fast and furious for anyone to react. Matsuya Wayne collapsed backward onto the stage, blood pooling around him. 3 bullets struck Matsuya Wayne squarely between the eyes. The next day's newspapers ran the story as their headline. Matsuya Wayne falls at Grand Theater. Mu Guiying's triple shot pierces the invader's lifeline. Word spread through the streets that all 3 rounds found their mark perfectly, each bullet passing through the same entry wound. A seamless coordination, gunplay as natural as breathing. Every flimsy lead pointed squarely at the Central Special Operations Division. Within hours, Japanese troops launched a citywide dragnet for 3 female communist operatives. With the manhunt closing in, the 3 of us scattered in different directions and lost contact. A month later, disguised as an elderly shoeshiner, I hunched over polishing leather shoes in filthy, noisy alleyways. The cramped, narrow lanes seemed to endlessly constrict my destiny. On an utterly ordinary morning, the clatter of streetcars echoed through the alleyway. A newsboy's raspy cry carried the news of Wei Shui's death. Extra, extra. Japanese troops capture Mu Guiying. Bandit queen revealed as Wei family heiress from Huainan. The newspaper's front page bore Wei Shui's death photo. Her head, arms, palms, and feet were all laid out side by side. The shoe-shining hand trembled slightly, accidentally smudged the customer's socks. The hard leather shoe mercilessly kicked straight into my gut. Damn old fool. Are you blind or what? Ouch, that hurts. But not as bad as I thought. Nothing compared to those beatings back in Beiping, not like that bullet in Soviet times, when Wei Shui took it in her left shoulder for me, nor the inhuman torment Wei Shui endured before her death. Memory numbs the pain, it robs one of all courage. I'm sorry, I'm sorry. My voice was barely audible, choked with sobs and incoherent words. This apology wasn't meant for him, but for the martyred hero in the photograph who'd met such a tragic end. Tears streamed down, soaking his hand stained with shoe polish. Damn it, I'm the one getting screwed here, and you're the one crying. In a flash, another kick came flying. It landed square on my spine with brutal force. A pair of polished military boots came into view. They intercepted the guest who'd been determined to give me trouble. His voice was calm yet commanding. "All right, Song Ting, they're just socks. I'll fetch you a crate from the barracks later." He stepped closer, then closer still. Reached out to me with effortless ease, large, broad hands roughened by rifle calluses. "Old man, the ground's cold, get up quickly." I looked up. The man's eyes were rimmed red, his bright gaze brimming with tears as if he'd wept all night for someone. In that instant, my gaze locked onto him like iron to a magnet. Everything about him, his brows, his eyes, his features, was the spitting image of that departed soul from the obituary, save for his gender, Wei Lin. I whispered his name silently in my heart. He was Wei Shue's twin brother, Wei Lin. Martyr Wei Shue sacrificed her life to bring closure to this assassination case that shocked the nation. Matsui Wayne, one of the architects of the Nanjing massacre, had Chinese blood on his hands and deserved his fate. The entire nation mourns the injustice suffered by Martyr Wei Shue. Coupled with the soldiers' heroic resistance over the past 2 years, they dramatically turned the tide of the war of resistance. The Japanese army's dream of swiftly conquering China through blitzkrieg was utterly shattered. Both sides entered a stalemate phase in the Sino-Japanese conflict. After repeated negotiations and mediation by high-ranking officials, considering the operational costs, the Japanese military decided to drop further investigation into the matter. This allowed me to secretly return to the film studio, and after over a year of rest and recovery, I made my comeback on screen. As for the other Mu Guiying, Xing Chunming, she vanished without a trace. No one ever saw her again. That year, the fame of Soul of the Pear Blossom combined with the legend of Mu Guiying the assassin made me Shanghai's brightest star. The spotlight never dimmed. Meanwhile, I voluntarily took over Wei Shue's underground party duties, gathering intelligence for our organization in Shanghai. In 1940, Wei Lin strode into the film studio's backstage holding a poster of Soul of the Pear Blossom and an extravagant bouquet of white roses, then knelt on one knee to profess his love. 6 months later, I married Wei Lin and officially retired from the silver screen. In 1941, Director Kai's identity as a communist underground informant was exposed, and the Japanese executed him by hanging. Within just 1 year, Star Film Company ultimately declared bankruptcy due to wartime persecution and lack of financial support. An entire generation of Chinese filmmakers each met their own fate. Waking from sleep, I finally arrived at the Yan'an that Zhang and Wei Shue had described. Earthen houses and cave dwellings were scattered in picturesque disorder. Soldiers in uniform were a common sight on every street. Their synchronized footsteps echoed alongside booming military chants. Unlike Shanghai survivors' glamour clinging to post-war scars, everything here basked in sunlight's golden embrace of rebirth. Whether soldiers or officers, elders or children, men or women, every face glowed with hope for the future. After just a few steps, I instantly understood why they cherished this distant land so deeply. A man named Xing Jing was assigned to receive me. He was Xing Chunming's cousin, the mysterious man who delivered penicillin to me in Beiping all those years ago. Finally, he revealed his most significant identity to me. "Comrade Liang, I am Xing Jing, the widower of Martyr Wei Shue." Xing Jing led a girl of about 10 out from the cave dwelling. That delicate yet stubborn little face unmistakably revealed whose daughter she was. Under the sunlight, Xing Jing pointed at me and said to the girl, "Little Inger, call her auntie." I froze momentarily. "What did you just call her?" Xing Jing gave an embarrassed little chuckle. "The child's name is Xing Inger. Wei Shue chose it for her. Back in Yan'an, Wei Shue and Xing Chunming spoke of you every day. You're their little sister, Inger. Ever since this child was born, they've been calling her Little Inger with such tenderness." A pang of sorrow tightened my chest, bringing tears to my eyes, yet the golden sunlight and the girl's radiant smile held them at bay. How could anyone cry at a moment like this? "Smile now, Little Inger, keep smiling." I knelt down and smiled at the girl who shared my name, then pulled her into a tight embrace. "It's me, Inger, your auntie's here." As I grew older, my memory began fading. The post-liberation years flashed by like frames of film, leaving no time for remembrance nor forgetting. Now retired from the Women's Federation, I spend my days caring for my niece's child at home. She gave birth to an adorable little girl. We gave her a beautiful name, Chun Ming. She took her mother's surname, Xing, that spring. I sat in the yard cleaning vegetables while listening to Peking opera on the radio. Just as I was engrossed in the story of the drunken concubine, Chun Ming suddenly ran into the courtyard shouting, "Auntie, I'm on TV." Auntie, look quick, Chunming's on television, what's going on? I hastily put on my reading glasses, dragged by Chunming at a jogging pace into the living room. The TV was broadcasting a declassified cold case, Taiwan's Spring Bud case ringleader Xing Chunming, later revealed as an underground CCP member, heroically sacrificed himself after arrest in 1978. As the host introduced, a black and white photo flashed on the screen, a still from Zhang's acting days on the mainland. The news report continued. According to reports, Comrade Xing Chunming successfully relayed multiple critical intelligence documents during his time in Taiwan, making significant contributions to the cause of national reunification. I collapsed onto the sofa abruptly. Those memories buried deep in my heart stretch across my entire existence like a vast galaxy. Not for a single moment have I dared to forget. Grandma, what's wrong? Xia Kunming noticed my distress and rushed over to support me with concern. I looked up at her and said, Chunming, give your mom a call, we need to go to Taiwan to bring Auntie home. Never in my wildest dreams did I imagine that what finally got me to Taiwan was that marriage certificate between Wei Lin and me from the Republican era. In the eyes of the law, we're still husband and wife, so with that family visit permit signed by Wei Lin, I made it to Taiwan without a hitch. Waiting at the airport to greet me was Wei Lin. He'd aged, yet his flamboyant air remained undiminished. Clad in a black overcoat with a veiled hat, clutching a massive bouquet of white roses, he stood conspicuously in the busiest airport spot, eagerly scanning the crowd. He still carries himself with the dashing vigor of that young officer from years past. Perhaps even he cannot forget those scarred yet passionate years that burned so brightly. He presented me with an enormous bouquet of roses. His voice lacked its former resonant strength, now hoarse like any ordinary old man's. Lying, welcome. I've been waiting for this moment. For years. I gave him a faint smile. A young man stood beside him, his mannerisms bearing traces of his younger self. And this is your child? Wei Lin smiled. Yes, he's a war orphan I've taken in. That would be my child. My heart skipped a beat, but I quickly composed myself. That's nice. The young man hesitated for a moment before calling out, Mom. I recoiled in fright. Wei Lin shot him a menacing glare, demanding he correct himself. The man stammered awkwardly before correcting, Professor Lying. Father never married, he waited for you his entire life. I'm feeling a bit awkward. This really isn't the best time to discuss this, so I cut straight to the chase. Just take me to see Zhang. Along the way, Wei Lin told me how he discovered Zhang impersonating me on that flight years ago. You're practically identical, different faces, but the same aura, those micro-expressions, mannerisms, even your builds, carbon copies. No wonder you were legendary as Shanghai's 3 warriors of Muguaying. When he realized the person beside him wasn't me but a Central Special Ops mole, his hand had already slipped silently toward the concealed pistol, ready for a fight to the death. As a top-tier operative, Zhang Chunming successfully turned him with just 3 conditions. First, Taiwan's reunification is an inevitable trend supported by popular will. Don't attempt to reverse historical currents. Second, his late sister Spirit and I here in Yan'an are both watching over him. Thirdly, his family remains on the mainland. His every move directly impacts their safety. By the time the plane touched down, the two had reached an agreement and settled the terms. Wei Lin leveraged his position to secure Xing Chunming a new identity and access to core operations. Xing Chunming was to guarantee his family's safe passage to Taiwan. He continued to talk about what happened later. After a few years of coming to Taiwan, my mother fell ill and passed away. Before she died, she kept mentioning you, regretting that if she had treated you better, maybe the family wouldn't have fallen apart. And Wei Min, she became a nun, deciding to spend her life repenting for her actions of exposing her sister back then. He spoke very sincerely, but I felt nothing in my heart. Those who don't cherish will only mutter if only after they've truly lost. Seemingly sincere, but can this erase their past misdeeds? Easy forgiveness, for the victim, is another form of cruelty. I didn't stay in Taiwan for too long. Carrying Zhang's ashes, I returned to the mainland the next day. Before leaving, Wei Lin insisted on seeing me off. Lying. Actually, I never saw you as a substitute for someone else. The first time I saw you, it wasn't that poster. But, I understand his hesitation. I'll answer for him. It was in a narrow, dirty alley where I got kicked by your men. He nodded with a smile. So you already know everything. I felt a bit helpless in my heart. In the end, I decided to be honest with him. Wei Lin, have you ever thought about why I agreed to your proposal so quickly, even when your mother opposed it? I insisted on marrying you. Wei Lin replied without hesitation. I know, It's because of my sister. He gave a self-deprecating smile. From the first time you looked at me, I knew everything. As long as I can be with you, I don't mind being a substitute for my sister. He took off his hat, looked at me solemnly, and made his final request. Lying, my truest love, life is short, stay with me for the rest of our lives. In that moment, there was a stirring in my heart, yet, I still shook my head at him, because I am fully aware that a woman's life is not confined to the phrase, my truest love, nor is it limited to the small world centered around a man. I have my own world, the plane sliced through the vast sky, emitting a piercing scream. After this parting, will we ever meet again in this lifetime? Wei Lin still speaks in such an old-fashioned way. I glanced at a zeng in my hand. I said to him with a smile, it will come. May we meet again when China soars to greatness in the world. Story 2. I am the daughter of a billionaire, and my parents dote on me, so they bought me a luxurious seaside mansion. However, the daughter of our housekeeper takes advantage of my frequent absence from the country to pose as a wealthy socialite using my villa. While receiving financial support from my family to attend university, she treats my villa as her own and indulges in extravagance. She wears my clothes, carries my designer bags, and invites her entire class to her villa to show off her luxurious lifestyle. Only when I arrived did I realize that the so-called villa of hers was actually ours. I spared her embarrassment and didn't expose her on the spot, only confronting her privately. Instead, she pushed me off the rooftop, killing me instantly. Meanwhile, she stayed with my parents, winning them over with her act of innocence and pity, and was adopted as their goddaughter, becoming the true heiress. I opened my eyes again, finding myself back on the day when the nanny's daughter invited the entire class. The excruciating pain of falling from a high building and being shattered hadn't faded yet, and I suddenly opened my eyes. The familiar classroom, familiar faces, and scenes made me suddenly feel unreal. Today is my birthday. And I'm throwing a birthday party at my villa tonight. Everyone is welcome to come and have fun, Lin Xingxing announced with a smile in front of the whole class, with my ex-boyfriend, Shen Fan, standing quietly beside her. The classroom erupted in cheers. Wow, Xingxing, you're so generous to invite us to the wealthy district. I've never seen what a mansion looks like before. Thank you, Xingxing, as the flattery around her continued. Lin Xingxing couldn't suppress the smile on her face and looked at me with a hint of pride. Xianing, why don't you come along tonight? I heard your family's situation isn't great, so you probably don't get many chances to visit places like mine. It might be a good opportunity to broaden your horizons. The familiar, identical words. Thank God. I actually went back 3 days before my death. Seeing me silent, people around started to speak sarcastically. What kind of attitude is that? Xingxing is talking to her, and she won't even respond. What's with the pretentious aloofness? She likes Shen Fan, right? I used to see her being quite flirty and passionate with Shen Fan. Now that he's with Xingxing, how could she feel good about it? A low murmur of laughter rippled through the crowd. Shen Fan frowned and glanced at me, clearly displeased. Jiang Xianing, there's nothing between us. If you spread these rumors among our classmates again and upset Xingxing, don't blame me for not showing any mercy and exposing you. Rumors. I clenched my fists and sneered. Shen Fan and I started dating in high school. Back then, he said he didn't want to affect our studies, so he never publicly acknowledged our relationship. After we went to college, he claimed he preferred the thrill of a secret relationship and still chose not to go public. Now I realize it was just to maintain the appearance of being single, making it easier to play the field. In my previous life, when he didn't know I was the daughter of a billionaire, he dumped me without hesitation after meeting the rich and beautiful Lin Xingxing. After Lin Xingxing pushed me down the stairs, he went out of his way to testify that I had accidentally slipped and died. Not only did Lin Xingxing clear her name, but she also won over my parents' hearts and was adopted as a foster daughter by the Jiang family. In the end, Lin Xingxing married Shen Fan as the Jiang family's heiress, and the two completely transcended their class. These despicable men and women feast on my flesh, drink my blood, and step on my bones to rise to power, soaring to success. I was burning with anger, and without hesitation, I swung my arm in a wide arc, delivering a hard slap across his face. Shen Fan, what do you think you are, daring to threaten me? Shen Fan was struck so hard that he turned his head away, blood trickling from the corner of his mouth. He pressed his cheek, a flash of anger flickering in his eyes. Jiang Xianing, there are too many women like you, poor, yet with delusions of grandeur, relying on a bit of beauty to dream of marrying into a wealthy family. Let me be clear with you. You're only good for entertaining me when I'm bored. Xingxing and I belong to the same class, only someone as pure and beautiful as her, a rich heiress, is worthy to be my wife, do you understand? Lin Xingxing looked at Shen Fan with deep emotion, then turned to me with a pitiful expression, classmate Jiang Xianing, I mean you no harm, if you don't want to go, you can just say so. Why did you hit my boyfriend? She sighed, look, just bow to Shen Fan and apologize, then slap yourself back, and we can let this go. I widened my eyes, finding it utterly absurd and laughable. Do you even know what you're saying? Smack, a fiery sting spread across my face. One of Lin Xingxing's lackeys chuckled and waved his hand dismissively. Xingxing, why waste your breath on such a little bitch? Just slap her and be done with it. Don't be so kind. Lin Xingxing gasped in surprise, covering her mouth. Xianing, are you okay? Does it hurt? Should I take you to the school clinic? The lackey panicked at once. Xingxing, if you take her to the school clinic, what if she tells the teacher? Lin Xingxing nodded worriedly. Yeah, if someone finds out, they'll say we're bullying a classmate. The lackey's eyes turned fierce, he grabbed my hair, and several others stepped forward to help without prior agreement. I struggled desperately, but with 2 fists against 4 hands, I was shoved into the stairwell storage room and locked in. Outside the door came Lin Xingxing's gentle, troubled voice. I'm sorry, Xianing. I didn't want this either, but I was afraid your family would worry, so please wait until the swelling on your face goes down before going home. Wake up, you're just too kind. People like her need to be dealt with properly, yet you still care about her. Forget it, let's not bother with that little bitch anymore. We're off to the big mansion to have fun. The whole class was laughing and playing, gradually moving away. Chapter 2. I held my numb, throbbing face, trembling all over. And it took me a long time to calm down. I can't force it, nor can I just let it go. The heavens have given me a second chance, an opportunity to make that despicable couple pay for their deeds. I began to think carefully. In my past life, I knew nothing about Lin Xingxing until her birthday party, when she arrived at my villa. It was then that I realized she had been using my assets to pose as a wealthy young lady. No wonder her clothes and bags, though expensive, were all familiar outdated styles. Sensing something was off, I conducted a thorough investigation into Lin Xingxing and was shocked by what I discovered. It turned out she was the daughter of Lu, the housekeeper at the villa. What's even more surprising is that she is the anonymous impoverished student I've been sponsoring since middle school. So I was using my own money to bring the person who killed me, step by step, right in front of me. After going to college, my parents gave me a new house, and I no longer lived in this villa. Sister Lu secretly recorded Lin Xingxing's fingerprints and made a full set of keys, all to package Lin Xingxing as a rich and beautiful girl, catch a wealthy suitor, and marry into a wealthy family. Shen Fan is the prospective golden-clad son-in-law that Lin Xingxing has set her sights on. I let out a cold laugh. They probably have no idea that Shen Fan, this so-called rich second generation, isn't even considered a has-been in our circle. I really don't know how I ever fell for him in the past. And I secretly supported his family's company just to help him maintain the facade of being a rich second generation. It's no wonder he and Lin Xingxing are a perfect match. Shen Fan thought he had hooked up with a hidden rich girl, but she turned out to be a fake socialite. I'm really looking forward to the moment when the truth comes out for both of them. I glanced at the time. It was already 2 p.m. In my previous life, Lin Xingxing's birthday party started at 7 p.m. So I still had time to pull off a last-minute plan. I let out a cold laugh, called my personal assistant, and succinctly gave 3 instructions. Fire Lin Xingxing's mother, immediately lock down and appraise the villa for sale, clear the fingerprint database, and change the password, stop supporting Shen Fan's company and reclaim all the projects given to them. After explaining everything, I sent a text to the driver to come pick me up, less than an hour after listing the house for sale. My best friend called in a panic. You're selling that stunning ocean view villa and didn't even tell me. Now, immediately, take it down. I'm determined. I was torn between laughter and tears. There's a little trouble. Are you sure you want to take this on? She smacked her lips twice. Go ahead, tell me. So I recounted the whole story of Lin Xingxing. My bestie burst out laughing on the other end. Is this little green tea really worth all your trouble? Leave it to me, honey. Oh. By the way, I'm throwing a glow-in-the-dark celebration party for my new house tonight. See you at the seaside villa. The car started heading toward the property transaction center, and I closed my eyes to rest, plotting my revenge in my mind, just exposing Lin Xingxing. That's too easy on her. All these years she's enjoyed so many financial benefits. At worst, she'd just lose face. What real loss is there? Just then, her phone lit up with a new message. It was from the poor student. Sister, Our school has an international exchange program, and it requires a payment of 30,000 yuan. Could you transfer that to me? A sly smile slowly crept onto my lips. What if she was digging her own grave? My fingers gently tapped the keyboard as a message was sent. Sure, I'm in a meeting right now and a bit busy. I'll call you before midnight. Midnight? I don't believe Lin Xingxing won't be anxious. Tonight was her big chance to shine, to hire people for appearances, to get a makeover and buy a dress. What if she didn't have the money? Of course, she'd borrow it. Chapter 3. Meanwhile, Lin Xingxing avoided Shen Fan and the rest of the class. Scrolling through her phone off to the side, she picked the cheapest venue package, 4,000 yuan, which would be enough to throw a decent party to impress her classmates, who had never seen the world. But 4,000 yuan is still money, and it can't just appear out of thin air. 3 hours had passed since she sent the message, but her sponsor still hadn't transferred the money. She didn't dare to rush them. Her mother had warned her that the sponsor was Jiangxi, the daughter of a billionaire, and she had quite the temper. Jiangxi is a very trustworthy person. If she says she'll call before 12, she will definitely call before 12. If you don't place the order now, it will be too late. Lin Xingxing gritted her teeth and opened the loan app. After completing the formalities, I went straight to the seaside villa. I arrived at 6:30 p.m. Upon entering, I was greeted by an open-air rose garden, where well-dressed staff wearing microphones were busily setting up the venue. The Italian crystal champagne tower sparkled, with Dom Perignon and Louis XIII cognac casually placed on Hermès blankets. The chef team hired was Michelin-starred, with top-tier French truffles, foie gras, caviar, and more displayed in a dazzling array. The outdoor pool on the villa's viewing deck goes without saying. Even the cheapest water polo ball Ution used was adorned with Swarovski crystals. The artistic director stepped forward, politely smiled, and shook my hand. Miss Jiang, are you satisfied? I smiled and nodded. Quite impressive. Then, turning my head, I saw Lin Xingxing leading a large group of people in a grand procession. The creative director chuckled and rubbed his nose as he walked away. The crowd began to shout and scream. Oh my God, wake up, your house is way too luxurious. Wow, this is what a wealthy family looks like. Absolutely amazing. Wake up, you're really too happy. I'm so envious. Listening to a group of people's wild flattery, Lin Xingxing's vanity was completely satisfied. Too perfect, too awesome, she deserves to be a partaker of such a noble life. Lin Xingxing was dying to give the 4,000 renminbi team a 5-star review right away. She carefully lifted her skirt, walking gracefully and reservedly through her manner like a true princess. Meanwhile, the 4,000 renminbi team had just gotten off the congested highway and was rushing over frantically. I watched coldly as this group approached the main entrance of the villa. Lin Xingxing's sycophant was the first to see me and exclaimed, "Why is Jiang Xianing out here?" Lin Xingxing's face changed abruptly when she saw me. She looped her arm through Shen Fan's and forced a smile. "Xianing, I thought you wouldn't come," someone sneered. "I thought some people had backbone, but no, they don't say anything, yet their legs move faster than ours. Where's that so-called pride now?" I spoke coldly. "I'm waiting for my friend." The group immediately burst into laughter. Doubling over, "Is your friend by any chance us, Xingxing? Does Xingxing even acknowledge friends like you who are both poor and spineless? Jiang Xianing, aren't you shameless, following us secretly? You must be crazy to want to marry into a wealthy family." Shen Fan's face flashed with obvious disgust. "Jiang Xianing, I thought you just had a bit of an identity crisis, but I didn't realize you were also so vain. Do you even know where you are? This is the most expensive neighborhood in Hong Kong. Are you really waiting for a friend here? Don't be in the wrong place. If you're saying this just to get my attention, you can give up now. I suggest you use some common sense next time and don't lie in such a ridiculous way." I stood at the door with my arms crossed, giving him a look of utter disdain. Lin Xingxing saw that I remained silent. A fleeting look of triumph flashed across her face, and she spoke magnanimously. "All right. Guests should be treated with respect. Don't mock Jiang Xianing. It's only natural for people to strive for better opportunities. Yeah, I can't be bothered with her anymore. Xingxing, hurry up and open it for us to see. We've never seen a real wealthy family before." Lin Xingxing, with a confident smile, was ushered to the door and pressed her finger against it. A low hum sounded, and the unlock failed. Lin Xingxing let out a puzzled sound and pressed again. Still, the unlock failed. The classmates looked at each other awkwardly and chuckled. "Maybe your finger wasn't aligned properly, Xingxing. Try again." Lin Xingxing bit her lip, chose to enter the password, and her hands were even trembling slightly. Then, this time, it was the cold electronic female voice. "Incorrect password. 3 wrong attempts will trigger an alarm. Lin Xingxing's forehead broke out in a cold sweat. Chapter 4. I watched coldly for a long time before finally speaking sarcastically. Lin Xingxing. Are you sure this is your house? Just walking right in. Lin Xingxing's face fell, but before she could say anything, others had already jumped in. Jiang Xianing, you sure have a lot of sour words. This isn't Lin Xingxing's house, so do you think it's yours? Do you think everyone is as poor as you? If you don't know anything, just shut up. Rich families have good security, and system upgrades are normal. I nodded, almost laughing. Okay, upgrade, haha. So, Miss Lin Xingxing, how do you plan to let us in? The owner of the house can't even open the door. That's a bit funny, isn't it? Lin Xingxing's face turned pale, but she managed to stay calm and said, I'll call the butler to handle it. Don't worry, it'll be sorted out soon. There's a play area set up in the front garden, along with drinks and snacks. Feel free to enjoy yourselves. I let out a cold laugh. Lin Xingxing, is this your doing? Go ahead and have fun. Lin Xingxing seemed stung and suddenly raised her voice. What do you mean? I spent my own money to treat everyone. What's wrong with that? Why are you always targeting me? Is it because Shen Fan likes me and not you? Jiang Xianing, human patience has its limits. She grew more and more aggrieved, her eyes turning red, tears on the verge of falling. Her lackey rushed up and spat at me. Get lost, Jiang Xianing, you're not welcome here. You're such a jinx, wherever you go. You bring bad luck. Others couldn't wait to open a bottle of wine and threw it, along with the glass, at me. I dodged to the side, and the glass shattered into pieces on the ground. The champagne tower next to it, teetering on the edge, suddenly collapsed entirely, turning into a pile of crystal shards. They shouted angrily, Jiang Xianing, do you see? Being rich means you don't care about these things at all, so you just let us play with them. Isn't it just jealousy that makes you constantly pick on Xingxing, jealous of her wealth and better fortune? So bitter in words, you must be insanely jealous inside. Some people have already run over and started rolling around, playing wildly. The high-end crystal masks originally meant for a masquerade ball were crudely shoved onto heads, causing crystals to fall off and feathers to break. The custom-made gowns arrived, but before they could be taken to the fitting room, several girls forced themselves into them, regardless of whether they fit or not. Being short, the long hems dragged on the ground and quickly became filthy. One girl tripped over the elaborate gown, which instantly ripped open, rendering it completely ruined. There were too many desserts and delicacies to eat, so each plate was sampled with a single bite, and the rest was wasted, knocked over onto the floor. A cake was thrown at me and hit me. The person cheered. Wow, I hit him, sore loser, get lost. I coldly watched all this and said, Lin Xingxing, I'm just reminding you kindly that joy can easily turn to sorrow. Lin Xingxing's face looked a bit bad, but she still stubbornly said, isn't it just a little messy in the yard? I'll have the housekeeper clean it up later, and Mom won't blame me. Shen Fan's expression was calm. Jiang Xianing, stop acting petty here. Xingxing was raised in wealth, so she only needs to consider what makes her happy. Only poor women would think about cleaning. Oh, if you're planning to stay and do cleaning work, we might consider paying you for housekeeping. If not, then get the hell out now. You're not welcome here. A loud female voice rang out just as the words finished. Let's see who dares to kick out my esteemed guest. Chapter 5. A Maserati drove straight into the villa, followed by a procession of luxury cars from various brands. The car door swung open, and a golden high heel emerged, followed by the dazzling appearance of a best friend in a fiery red dress. Meanwhile, the wealthy young men and women attending the party stepped out of their cars, each exuding an extraordinary and elegant charm. The classmates immediately froze, their mouths agape. Gasping in awe, someone excitedly shook Lin Xingxing's arm, exclaiming, Oh my god, Xingxing, are these your friends from the upper class? They're here for the party too. Someone whispered in a high-pitched voice, Xingxing, any single guys you can introduce to me? Lin Xingxing stared blankly at the unexpected situation, looking completely panicked and on the verge of collapsing. Her best friend took off her sunglasses, lifted Shen Fan's formerly arrogant chin, and smiled with an air of noble coldness. Hey, you, where are you from? Shen Fan slightly frowned, feeling a bit displeased but also aware that he couldn't afford to offend. The owner of Shen Corporation Limited is my father. The friend raised an eyebrow and turned to the second-generation friends. Do you guys know him? The second-generation friends all shrugged and shook their heads. What small-time family, never heard of them. Shen Fan remained silent, his lips pressed tightly together, his eyes dark. The friend let out a cold laugh and patted his face. Don't think that putting on a brave face will make me look at you differently. There are no male Cinderella stories in the wealthy families, let alone someone like you. Shen Fan clenched his fists, but didn't dare to make a sound. Seeing Lin Xingxing and Shen Fan both as silent as chickens, the whole class also completely dared not make a sound. At this moment, a young rich second generation at the very end slapped his head. Oh, I remember now, his dad's company. The one that took on our project in the eastern city last week. You're Shen Fan, right? The friend laughed and pointed at him. Tell your dad not to take just anyone, there are better options. You know, the youngest brother, seeing he had connected with the key figure in the circle, was immediately thrilled and very cooperative. Got it, sis, I'll let my dad know as soon as I get back. In just a few words, a project of the Shen family was gone. Shen Fan's eyes widened in fury as he suppressed his anger and said, Miss, I don't believe I've offended you, have I? Her best friend completely ignored his accusation, striding over to Lin Xingxing in 12 centimeters heels. Looking down on her, Lin Xingxing forced a very awkward smile and said, You must be Miss Jiangxi, I believe you've heard of my mother, Lu Xiuji. I raised my eyebrows in surprise. Lin Xingxing must have mistaken me for her best friend. Hoping I'd go easy on her because her mom has worked here for over a decade, her best friend sneered, never heard of it. Oh, by the way, this is my place, I just moved in today and I'm hosting a glow-in-the-dark party with some friends tonight. What are you doing in my house? The group exchanged puzzled glances, and one of them spoke cautiously, Xingxing, what's going on? Isn't this villa yours? Lin Xingxing stiffened for almost a minute, then suddenly relaxed and smiled, I'm sorry. Miss, it seems my parents sold this villa without my knowledge, but I didn't mean to deceive anyone. I hired the event setup team, and you all saw them. Everyone suddenly understood and immediately expressed their comprehension. It's okay, Xingxing. It's just a misunderstanding. It's fine, Xingxing. We'll find another chance to visit your other properties. Lin Xingxing's face turned pale, and she had to force a smile and nod, before she could even relax. A few bare-chested men carrying various tools came in, sweating profusely. Which one is MS? Lin Xingxing, what's going on? We just arrived, and the venue is already set up. Lin Xingxing was stunned, suddenly turning her head to look at the chaotic venue. The leading burly man spoke with displeasure. Miss Lin Xingxing, our team has pushed all our business here today. If you stand us up, we won't be refunding the 4,000 yuan. The clueless lackey retorted, it's just 4,000 yuan. Do you even know how to do business? Offending a big client over a little money, Xingxing certainly doesn't lack this amount. However, they didn't notice that Lin Xingxing was already trembling uncontrollably. Wait, her best friend said with a smile. So, you've been making a scene in my villa and treating the venue I set up as your own, completely trashing it, right? Lin Xingxing was so pale she looked like she was about to faint. She stammered almost unintelligibly, I am so sorry. I had no idea that this villa had already been sold. This misunderstanding is entirely my fault, and I sincerely apologize. May I have the team I hired redo the arrangements for you? Her best friend's smile grew wider. Really, I bought this house from my good friend, Jiangxi. How come I didn't know that Mr. Jiang has a daughter surnamed Lin? Oh, right. My best friend came up and linked arms with me. She's right here. Jiang Xianing, also known as Jiangxi, didn't you know? Chapter 6. Lin Xingxing's eyes widened in sudden terror. Shen Fan looked at me in disbelief, filled with shock. The second-generation crowd chuckled. Sister you, no wonder you told us not to greet Sister Jiangxi first when we arrived. So that's what you were planning. Ha 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 ha, how amusing. These two clowns. Lin Xingxing's face contorted almost into a grimace as she venomously said, How could you be Jiangxi? How could you possibly be Jiangxi? Shen Fan slowly composed himself. Speaking softly, Xianing, why didn't you ever reveal your true identity? You've caused a lot of misunderstandings between us by acting this way. I calmly said, why should I tell you if I am Jiangxi? If I did, wouldn't I be unable to see through your true nature? Shen Fan's face suddenly turned pale. Lin Xingxing exclaimed, so you've always known, yet you just watched me make a fool of myself. You knew the house was sold long ago, yet you stood by and watched me embarrass myself trying to unlock it. You knew this venue wasn't mine, yet you just stood there and watched as my classmates caused damage. She ranted wildly, Jiang Xianing, how could you be so malicious? I laughed. Lin Xingxing, don't you know how to write the word face? Didn't I warn you? I already questioned you. Is this house yours? Did you set up this venue? It was you who insisted on bringing your classmates to the villa just to satisfy your vanity. It was also you who pretended to be a generous rich girl, letting everyone have fun. Did I force you to do all this? She glared at me, gritting her teeth. How did you find out? I smiled, casually picking up her bag. It's a 2015 break-in model, with a small triangular scratch on it. I left it in this villa, and your mother, Sister Lu, gave it to you, didn't she? Before the words had even finished, Lin Xingxing's mother, Lu Xiaoji, suddenly appeared from somewhere and gave Lin Xingxing a loud slap across the face. You stupid girl, foolish, how dare you offend the young lady, and now you've lost me such a good job. She plopped down on the ground and started wailing, slapping her thigh. What a sin. How could I have given birth to such a troublemaker? Now what about your brother's tuition? Lin Xingxing screamed and lunged at Lu Xiaoji. Isn't it because of you forcing me? You're always thinking about finding me a rich man. Do you think rich people are all idiots who don't look at anything? If I didn't resort to this, what else could I do? By now, if the whole class still couldn't figure out what was going on, they'd be complete fools. They immediately started cursing at Lin Xingxing, calling her a liar, vain, and a fraud who tricked everyone, hastily removing her dress, haute couture tailcoat, jewelry, crown, mask, and more. Unfortunately, most of it has been ruined due to their careless handling. Shen Fan, even more furious, slapped Lin Xingxing across the face. Bitch, how dare you deceive me? If it weren't for you, why would I have broken up with the real heiress? The scene was in complete chaos, and with a wave of her hand, her best friend had the bodyguards block the door. None of the people Lin Xingxing brought would be allowed to escape in the confusion. The loss assessor immediately began to assess the damages. The cost of the destroyed venue setup alone was 1 million, and the various high-end jewelry, accessories, and clothing provided by the brand store were all damaged to varying degrees, with an estimated compensation of 30 million. This is still the lowest estimate. Hearing the numbers, Lin Xingxing panicked, not caring about face anymore, and exclaimed in fear, I didn't break these things, I didn't even touch them, those clothes were worn by them, and the jewelry was worn by them, you should ask them to pay. The classmates immediately became furious. Lin Xingxing, you have no shame, you clearly brought us in, and now you're refusing to take responsibility. Exactly, how could we have dared to touch these things without your permission? Load the cargo, it's all your fault, and you even incited us to target Jiangxi. You bitch, we've been ruined by you. A group of people swarmed in, tearing and beating. Lin Xingxing's styled big wave hairstyle was torn apart, and a bloody chunk of scalp was ripped off, a face delicately made up with light makeup, now smeared with tears and bruises. Screaming to call the police, my bestie laughed and brought over a big chair, sitting with me to watch the show. After the brawl ended, it was hard to calm down, but we finally clapped. Alright, the fight's over, time to pay up. Right, 31 million, not a penny less, otherwise, she smiled, I'll have you all sent to jail. She flicked her nails. There are 30 of you, right, that's just over $1 million each, not too much, going to jail over this would be really not worth it, you know. Chapter 7. A group of people looked at each other in anger and helplessness, on the verge of tears. Someone directly knelt down with a thud, sobbing and tearful. Sister, please let me off, my family is poor, and my grandma is seriously ill in the hospital. If my dad finds out I caused such a big trouble, he'll kill me. My bestie raised an eyebrow. You know this is trouble, yet you still dared to cause it. Seeing no hope with my bestie, some turned to me. Jiangxi, I'm sorry, we were wrong about some things in the past, we apologize to you. Please, let us off. Ningning, we're all classmates. Could you talk to your friend and see if they can reduce the compensation? Our families are just average, not like yours, right? Your family doesn't need this money. Could you show some mercy and let us off the hook? I laughed. These people really forget what they say the moment they turn around. How could that be? I'm just a petty, stingy person who's never seen so much money before. So, you'll have to show me the ropes, not a single cent less. When I brought up old debts, they got even more furious. Ningning, I know you have grievances with us, but if you had revealed your identity from the start, how could we have spoken to you like that? We were classmates, yet you stood by and watched us get duped by Lin Xingxing, doing nothing. Don't you bear any responsibility for this situation? I said coldly. What my identity is has always been a product of your own imagination, hasn't it? Step on the poor, fawn over the rich, despise the poor and fawn on the rich. It's your own fault. What does it have to do with me? I almost forgot, I said, turning to Shen Fan, whose face was ashen. Young Master Shen, with your wealth, I'm sure 30 million is no big deal, right? Isn't Lin Xingxing your girlfriend? Then you should take responsibility for her. The crowd immediately turned hopeful gazes toward Shen Fan. that's right, Shen Fan, you're the real deal when it comes to being a rich second generation. It was you who said Lin Xingxing was a real rich girl. And that's why we believed it. Now everyone's been duped. What do you say we do about it, Mr. Shen? Your family runs a big company, so getting 30 million shouldn't be a problem, right? Shen Fan clenched his fists and spoke with difficulty. Our company has been in the red for a long time. That project we finally got last week, as you just saw, is gone. He exhaled deeply. I'm sorry, I can't help everyone, and I haven't touched anything here. Lin Xingxing was the one who always advocated for this matter. It has nothing to do with me. I was also one of the deceived. Lin Xingxing stared blankly at him, tears mixed with smudged makeup, dried on her face. She let out a scream and rushed up to spit on Shen Fan's face. Shen Fan, didn't you say you would marry me and take responsibility for me? You liar, claiming to be from some high class, saying only I was worthy to be your wife. Now that something has gone wrong, you can't even come up with this much money. What are you pretending for? Shen Fan shoved her to the ground, his voice full of disgust. Isn't it you who deceived me first? A woman as shameless as you is truly a rare sight. If it weren't for you seducing me, I'd still be with Jiangxi, you bitch, feeling increasingly annoyed. I pressed my temples and decided to call the police. Soon, several police cars arrived and took away the group of intruders who had illegally entered the premises and damaged citizens' property. Everyone's faces turned pale, and there was no time for moral grandstanding. All were wailing and pleading, not wanting to go to jail, but there was no way out. They were all adults over the age of 18, and they had to take legal responsibility for their actions, either repay the money or face imprisonment and sentencing. I calmly watched them cry, kneel, beg, and act pitifully, feeling nothing in my heart. They brought this on themselves, and I won't feel sympathy. Chapter 8. The rest of the matter was handled by my best friend and her lawyer, as she was the victim and the owner of the villa. My best friend didn't care about the money, but she certainly wasn't going to be a pushover. The school received a notice from the police and immediately gave them a serious disciplinary warning, leaving their graduation in doubt. The counselor probably knew I was involved in this somehow, so she called me to her office, but couldn't bring herself to mediate. I calmly took out my offer and said, "Teacher, I'm going abroad to study. Even if everyone in the class ends up in jail, there's nothing I can do. After all, they broke into someone else's home." The counselor sighed, Sanning. I know you're good friends with the victim. Could you please speak up for your classmates? I paused for a moment, then lowered my eyes and said, "No, everyone should pay the price for their actions." I gave them chances and warned them more than once. In my previous life, after Lin Xingxing killed me, everyone knew that Lin Xingxing had been at odds with me, yet they all chose to remain silent. Who will plead for the life that was taken from me? These accomplices. I didn't expect Lin Xingxing to dare message me, but under the guise of being a poor student. "Sister, why hasn't the money been transferred yet? Did you forget? I really need this money. It's an amazing opportunity for me. Please, send it to me as soon as you see this." She's still gambling, betting that I don't know she's the anonymous poor student. I ignored it and tossed my phone aside. Lin Xingxing sends me messages every day, her tone growing more urgent, even threatening. "I know you're the daughter of the Jiang group. If you don't transfer money to me, I'll report you for being a fraud, donation scam. TCH, how laughable. Hanging yourself from the southeast branch." I swiftly posted the chat logs along with her full name on the campus wall. Soon, the comment section was flooded with onlookers. Who is this person? Threatening a sponsor. Truly a rare sight. Give a little and they expect a lot. You end up feeding an ungrateful person. Wait, Lin Xingxing. The rich freshman Lin Xingxing. Isn't her family well off? Why would she need sponsorship? Wow, I heard this strong sister stole other people's clothes, luxury bags, and even stayed in someone else's villa. She got caught. Ha 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 ha. That's way too abstract, isn't it? After posting on the campus wall, Lin Xingxing completely calmed down and stopped causing trouble. I've completed all the study abroad procedures and am now relaxing at home, waiting to leave. I spend my free time arranging flowers and shopping with my bestie. The group from our class refused to pay, so my bestie's legal department took them to court. The verdict has been announced, and the compensation amount matches the previous estimate. Each party has to pay 1 million, with compulsory enforcement. This time, they've truly learned their lesson. Every day, someone kneels outside the seaside villa, crying with genuine emotion, and some even sneak to my company to beg. Shen Fan did pay back the money, but it said that his leg was almost broken by the CEO, losing their biggest partnership deal. Shen's company has been struggling and is back on the brink of bankruptcy. with the CEO's hair turning gray overnight. Half a month later, I heard a shocking piece of news about Lin Xingxing. Chapter 9. Lin Xingxing took out a nude loan. It's rumored that when the loan payment was due and couldn't be paid, nude photos were spread all over the place. And it has already gone viral on the campus forums, resulting in social death. Lin Xingxing initially tried to brazen it out and continue her studies, but the school couldn't tolerate a student who tarnished the school's image, so they issued a direct expulsion. Lin Xingxing is done for. Her greed ultimately trapped her in a dead end, and I was boarding a flight to the UK, barring any unforeseen circumstances. Our lives would never intersect again. It wasn't until the Spring Festival a year and a half later that I flew back home for the holidays. My bestie invited me for coffee, and in the course of our conversation, she casually mentioned Shen Fan and Lin Xingxing. You know what, Lin Xingxing is dead, and Shen Fan is in prison. I widened my eyes in surprise and quickly asked what had happened. My best friend sighed with a TSK. It turns out that after Lin Xingxing dropped out, her mom disowned her because she was ashamed she lost my support. Had no education, and could only work in restaurants washing dishes, cleaning, and doing other low-paying manual labor. However, due to the court's forced execution of the compensation, every time she earned a bit of money, it would be immediately deducted from her card. The naked loan people, of course, were not easy to deal with, threatening her relentlessly and even capturing her several times to work off the debt. Lin Xingxing was completely pushed to the brink, with no other quick ways to make money, so she got Shen Fan drunk, got pregnant, and decided to take a gamble by marrying into a wealthy family, but old Shen proved to be heartless and firmly refused to let such a woman into the family, forcing her to have an abortion. Lin Xingxing's last glimmer of hope was shattered, and she jumped off the building of the Shen family's company, dying on the spot. The exposure of the forced abortion led to the complete bankruptcy of the already precarious Shen family company. The Shen family is gone, deep in debt, and Shen Fan is on the verge of madness. He went to my parents' villa district, knelt down, begged, and even dared to try to get my parents to agree to marry me off to him. He's lost his mind, but my parents haven't. We treated him like a lunatic and sent him packing with a scolding, unable to get what he wanted from the Jiang family. He panicked and impulsively kidnapped a child from a wealthy neighborhood, demanding ransom. Within half a day, he was subdued by the police. That family had considerable influence and had him sent to prison, where he was sentenced to the maximum term of 15 years. After hearing this, I pondered for a long time. Do you think it's possible that Shen Fan committed a crime on purpose just to avoid his debts by going to prison? Hearing this, my best friend suddenly looked enlightened, but also at a loss for words. If you put it that way, then maybe he picked the wrong plan, she whispered in my ear. You don't know that family pulled some strings to get him sent to the prison with the most rampant same-sex relationships. You know, Shen Fan is quite good-looking, so I'm afraid he might not be safe. I couldn't help but laugh silently after hearing that. In a way, those two really are a perfect match, both experts at digging their own graves. Let them go to their graves if they want to. I'm going to enjoy my new life. What are your plans for tomorrow? I want to go skiing. Are you in? Let's go. The end. That's it for the first story. Don't go away. The next one is even more exciting. After being reborn, I decided to fake my death before Guqing could fake his. In my previous life, Guqing died just before our wedding. I thought I had cursed him to death, so I remained a widow for most of my life and paid off his debts. He also worked hard to raise his younger siblings. When I was old and seriously ill, Guqing appeared with his wife and child. He said, "You took my wife's place, but you raised my siblings, so we're even now." Only then did I realize that he had faked his death back then and eloped with a female classmate. I was so angry that I died of internal bleeding. When I opened my eyes again, I decided to fake my death first. I was reborn 2 days before my wedding with Guqing. I immediately went to town and bought a train ticket to the south for tomorrow morning. In my past life, it was Guqing who faked his death before the wedding, secretly living a carefree life in the south with a female classmate. He left me with huge debts and my younger siblings. This time, I'll run away before him and see how he handles it. When I rushed home, laughter echoed from within. It was Guqing and his female classmate Zhu Shouqin. Zhu Shouqin wore the red dress I had prepared for the wedding, spinning and twirling like a butterfly. Guqing smiled as he watched her. The man was handsome, the woman graceful, and they looked just like a newlywed couple. My entrance into the room broke the ambiguous atmosphere. Zhu Shouqin's body shrank slightly. I just wanted to try on the bride's dress. I never got to wear one when I got married, and my in-laws, you know, She covered her face as she sobbed softly. Zhu Shouqin was forced by her parents to marry a scoundrel a few years ago, endured endless suffering, and had just divorced and returned to the village half a year ago, where she was treated poorly by her parents and siblings. As a result, they often refused to feed her. Guqing said that since they were classmates, and she was now pitiful, he wanted to help her, so he often brought her to his home for meals, and the two were always seen together, although I was dissatisfied. I could only suppress my grievances and unwillingness because I liked Guqing. Gradually, she could wear my clothes and rummage through my things at my house without any restraint. Now I don't have to hold back anymore. I walked over to her and coldly said, "Take off the clothes." Guqing frowned and stood in front of her. "Xiaoya, just borrow Shouqin's dress for a couple of days. You won't need it until the day after tomorrow anyway." Guqing had already planned to fake his death before the wedding. He knew the wedding wasn't going to happen, so his confidence was shaky when he spoke. I chuckled to myself in self-mockery and reached out to take off Zhu Shouqin's clothes. She let out a sharp scream and hid behind Guqing. Guqing reflexively pushed me, and my body slammed into the table, knocking over the tea set and dishes I had bought for the wedding. In an instant, they shattered into pieces. Just like the marriage I had been looking forward to, it turned out to be a complete scam. Guqing's expression changed. He wanted to step forward to help me, but the neighbors were quicker to come and watch the commotion. In the countryside, doors are not closed during the day. I held a pair of scissors to my neck, my face filled with sorrow. "Guqing, you brought another woman to my home, wearing my wedding dress. You've humiliated me so much. How can I face living? I don't really want to hurt myself. I'm just setting the stage for tomorrow's fake death. If you drive me to death, I hope Guqing can withstand the village's curses and spitting." In a past life, Guqing faked his drowning. He died the day before our wedding, and the villagers gossiped behind my back, calling me a husband killer and a jinx. I also believed that I had somehow caused Guqing's death, feeling both sad and guilty. Later, Ma Gu, a moneylender from our village, brought the huge IOU signed by Guqing and forced me to repay the debt. I worked hard for over a decade to finally pay off that debt. Meanwhile, I had to raise Guqing's younger siblings, and by my late 40s, I was already plagued with illnesses. As I lay on my deathbed, Guqing, long thought dead, returned to his hometown with Zhu Shouqin and their child. Looking radiant, he coldly watched me struggle for my last breath. "You've unlawfully claimed my wife's title. But you've also raised my younger siblings, so we're even." "Guqing, you can't do this. How kind Xiaoya's mother was to you in her lifetime, and now you're forcing her daughter to her death. This woman, after getting divorced herself, goes around ruining other people's relationships. How shameless. She's just a vixen." The neighbor's gossip brought me back to my past life memories. Zhu Shouqin hurriedly took off my clothes, covered her face, and ran out. After the neighbors left, Guqing glared at me with full of anger. "Song Xiaoya, stop being unreasonable. It's just a piece of clothing, such a small matter. Why are you making such a big deal out of it?" I calmly looked at him. "Are you really going to marry me? I thought you liked Zhu Shouqin." His eyes flickered for a moment, and he softened his tone. "Xiaoya, I promised your mom I would take care of you. Let's not argue, okay?" When Guqing was young, his parents passed away one after another. His relatives considered him unlucky and drove him and his young siblings out of the house. Weak and emaciated, he knelt at my doorstep begging for food. Seeing the three siblings in such a pitiful state, my mother took them in. Life in the countryside was tough, and to ensure the three siblings didn't go hungry, we divided our two-person ration into 5 portions. My mother didn't ask Guqing to marry me before she passed away. She just hoped that someone would pull me up when I was in trouble. It was Guqing who proposed to marry me, and I had a good impression of him, so I wasn't resistant. He kept saying he wanted to repay my family, but instead, he repaid evil for good. Seeing that I didn't speak, Guqing thought his words had moved me. He put on a troubled expression again. "You embarrassed Shouqin today. Please invite her over for dinner later to make amends." I didn't respond and went to see the village chief. The village chief mentioned that my land and the surrounding area are planned to be converted into a school. In my previous life, I refused to have my land requisitioned and missed out on a substantial compensation. The procedures were handled quickly, and the village head said he would come to collect the house in a week. The village head kindly asked me, "Where will your family of so many people live without a house?" I remained calm and said, "We have our own place. The Gu siblings have been staying at my house for far too long, probably forgetting who the real owner is." When I got home, Zhu Shouqin and Gu Feng, who had just finished school, were sitting together, chatting and laughing. The two kids immediately glared at me. "You can't bully Shoqin." Zhu Shoqin pretended to scold them, but her eyes were filled with mockery and pity for me. She mocked me for taking care of these kids for so long. Yet they still sided with her, an outsider, in my past life. This brother and sister would occasionally cry and curse me for supposedly causing their elder brother's death. Out of guilt, I could only double my efforts to be good to them, trying to make up for the dead in my heart. They knew perfectly well that Gu Cheng's death was faked, yet they shamelessly leeched off me. Now, looking back, it's clear that those who seem pitiful often have their own share of blame. There was a reason why their relatives had insisted on driving these three siblings away. I immediately gave the two kids a stern look and said, "This is my home. If you don't want to stay, get out." All these years, I had treated them as my own siblings, and this was the first time I had spoken so harshly. Gu Cheng's face instantly froze. Young Gu Yuan pouted, her face full of discontent. "Who are you being stingy for? Xiuqin's sister made me malted milk to drink and gave us candy, but you're the one who's reluctant to share and hides it away. Shut up." Gu Cheng glanced at me and quickly scolded Gu Yuan. I opened the cabinet and saw that the wedding candy and malted milk I had bought were all gone. Gu Cheng's expression was a bit unnatural. I'll go to town tomorrow to buy some more. It won't delay our wedding." I was furious and slapped Zhu Shoqin twice. "You stole from my house to curry favor." Zhu Shoqin covered her face and stammered her explanation. "It's all misunderstandings." She's used to pretending to be weak in front of Gu Cheng, so she didn't dare to fight back. This is like collecting interest in advance for the suffering I endured in my past life. A flash of fierceness crossed Gu Cheng's eyes, but he suppressed it. After all, he still hoped that I would treat his younger siblings well after he left and wouldn't dare to offend me. He spoke with some difficulty. "I allowed this, so don't blame Shoqin. She only did it because she felt sorry for the children. When my mother was alive, she treated Gu Yuan and Gu Feng better than she treated me. After she passed away, I never mistreated them. While other kids their age were out herding cattle and picking grass, I gritted my teeth and sent them to school to learn to read and write. But Gu Cheng said they were pitiful. A naturally cold and unfeeling heart cannot be warmed." Gu Yuan and Gu Feng reluctantly apologized to me only after Gu Cheng's silent urging. "Sister Xiaoya, we shouldn't have said those things about you. We're sorry." I gave him a cold look. "If you're living under someone else's roof, you should act like it." Gu Cheng shot up from his seat, his eyes fixed on me. "Song Xiaoya, after living together for so many years, isn't there even a shred of affection left?" "Humph, he knows there used to be affection between us." Zhu Shoqin kept signaling to Gu Cheng, and the coldness in his eyes gradually faded. He forced a helpless smile at me. "Xiaoya, they're still young, they'll definitely change in the future. I'm leaving, whether they change or not, it no longer concerns me." Someone was calling Gu Cheng's name outside the door, and I immediately recognized the voice as Ma Gu, the lone shark from our village. After all, in my previous life, he had come to my door multiple times with the huge IOUs Gu Cheng had signed, threatening me with harsh words. The moment I heard his voice, I would instinctively feel anxious. While I was tormented by debt and couldn't sleep at night, Gu Cheng was enjoying the good life in the south with Zhu Shoqin. Gu Cheng glanced at me nervously and hurried outside. "It might be someone from the factory. I'll go check." Through the window, I saw Gu Cheng gesture to Ma Gu. He borrowed even more money than he did in his previous life. Maybe I haven't been as submissive as I was in my past life recently. He harbored resentment and wanted to punish me on purpose. In an era where the average annual income was 200 yuan, he borrowed 10,000 yuan with exorbitant interest. Ordinary people would have to work for decades without eating or drinking to repay the debt. In my previous life, I worked 3 jobs and sold my family's house, only managing to clear his debt many years later, without me footing the bill this time. I wonder how Gu Cheng will handle the fierce Ma Gu after borrowing money. Zhu Shoqin naturally understood what Gu Cheng was up to. She glanced at me triumphantly, as if casually mentioning it. "I hear small leather shoes and wool coats are in fashion in the south now. I wonder if they look good." In my past life, the last time I saw her, she was indeed dressed like a noble woman. Without me, the sucker carrying the burden this lifetime, I wonder if they'll ever have the chance to roam freely in the south again. I sneered. "You can't even afford to eat without mooching off my family. Can you really buy that?" Zhu Shoqin's eyes flashed with jealousy, but quickly turned to Schadenfreude. She must have been thinking about how she's leaving with Gu Cheng tomorrow, and I'll be left to deal with the mess. Gu Feng and Gu Yuan deliberately only talked to Zhu Shoqin, treating me as if I didn't exist. I didn't mind, eating heartily, as it was my last meal of hometown cuisine. It seems Gu Cheng borrowed some money, and he was beaming with joy. waiting for Zhu Shouqin to take Gu Yuan and Gu Feng out for a walk. Gu Qing sat beside me, sighing deeply before he said, Gu Feng will probably get married in a few years. It's not easy being a girl, so when you help her choose a husband, make sure to be very careful, and also push Gu Yuan to study and strive for progress. Look, he understands everything. Yet he still heartlessly leaves me in the mud. I laughed. Don't worry, Gu Feng will be able to marry a husband as good as yours, just like me. Gu Yuan will definitely grow up to be a man as grateful and righteous as you, such a man who knows how to repay kindness. Gu Qing felt a moment of awkwardness. He knew inwardly that what I said was a curse, not a blessing. I pretended to joke. You're not on your deathbed, big brother. So why are you acting like you're making your will with me? Suddenly, heavy footsteps echoed outside the door. It was Zhu Shouqin's ex-husband, Lu Erun, coming to the door. He looked me up and down with a sidelong glance. I hear you keep inviting my wife to dinner at your place. What's your intention? Have you taken a liking to her? I looked at Gu Qing in disbelief, and he avoided my gaze. It turns out he had brought Zhu Shouqin home multiple times under my name. No wonder Zhu Shouqin's ex-husband suspected Gu Qing when he learned of her disappearance in my previous life. But by then, Gu Qing was already dead, so he directed all his anger at me. He vented his anger by breaking my shin with a stick, and I remained crippled for life. I suppressed my hatred and pretended not to understand. I'm not close with her. I turned to Gu Qing. Didn't you say you invited her over out of our school friendship? You've been coming home very late these past few nights. Were you with Zhu Shouqin? Lu Erun was tall and strong, but also incredibly stubborn. Upon hearing my words, he immediately grew furious and slapped Gu Qing hard across the face. Whoever dares to covet my wife, I'll kill them. You hear me? After Lu Erun staggered away, drunk, I emerged from my hiding spot in the corner. Gu Qing gave me a reproachful look. You shouldn't have said that. You know how Lu Er is, reckless and unyielding. Look, he knows exactly what kind of person Lu Er is, yet he still eloped with Zhu Shouqin, caring nothing about my well-being. Good, in this life, no one will shield him from Lu Er's wrath. When Zhu Shouqin, Gu Yuan, and Gu Feng returned, they saw Gu Qing's swollen face. I calmly explained, Lu Erun did it. Gu Feng. I watched Zhu Shouqin, who was treating Gu Qing's wounds with intimate gestures. Why don't you blame the one who caused the trouble? Zhu Shouqin's eyes instantly reddened. It must be admitted, Zhu Shouqin was very beautiful, naturally delicate and graceful, evoking a protective instinct. I'm sorry, I had no choice but to avoid him. I'll leave now. Gu Feng and Gu Yuan immediately grabbed her, turning to glare at me with resentment. Gu Qing also looked disapproving. Xiaoya, you've changed. I thought you were as kind as your mother. Shouqin is already very pitiful. We should help her, I sneered. You're so kind. Then why don't you take a few more punches from Lu Erun? I hope he can still be so kind when Lu Erun breaks his legs in the future. The room fell silent instantly, and several people guiltily lowered their heads. They were all too aware that after Gu Qing's fake death, I would be the one to bear Lu Erun's wrath. I returned to my room, packed a small bundle, and prepared to leave at dawn. Why didn't I break off the engagement and kick Gu Qing and his siblings out? But instead wanted to fake my death first. It's because Gu Qing had been living in my house for many years, and the villagers all assumed we were a family. If I run into someone like Brother Ma who doesn't play by the rules, the debts Gu Qing owes will still drag me down. As a girl with no relatives, I can only fake my death to escape. I can only fake my death to avoid it. I'd rather let Gu Qing experience it himself. The feeling of meticulous planning coming to nothing in an instant. Perhaps because I had something on my mind, I didn't sleep very soundly. I remember asking Gu Qing, with reluctance, why he had schemed against me before my previous life ended. He looked cold and indifferent. It was wrong of me to deceive you, but if it weren't for repaying the debt of gratitude to your family, I would have married Shouqin, and she wouldn't have ended up with that bastard. Now she's enjoyed the good life in your place, and you've repaid your debt to her. I was so angry that I spat blood on the spot. If I had known he had someone else in his heart, I would never have agreed to marry him. He clearly enjoyed my care for his 3 siblings, yet he still had lingering thoughts about Zhu Shouqin. In the morning, Gu Qing, with dark circles under his eyes, hurried to greet me as soon as I stepped out of the room. I knew that today afternoon was the time he would fake his death and leave. He was worried about his younger siblings and wanted to give me some final instructions. I didn't give him a chance because a group of people came to my house to move furniture. I'm about to leave, and I won't let them get anything on the cheap. The large wardrobe that Gu Feng liked and the desk that Gu Yuan used were both sold by me. These were all prepared by my mother before she gave birth. The 2 kids glared at me with hatred. And Guqing was unsure what I was thinking, tentatively asking. I immediately explained, we're getting married soon, so we need to replace the furniture. Gu Feng is growing up and needs a better wardrobe. Gu Yuan is also getting taller, and a new desk would make studying more convenient. Gu Feng shouted. I also want a dressing table and a big bed. Gu Yuan wasn't about to back down. Me too. I waved my hand generously. You'll all have these, just not at my expense. Guqing looked at me gratefully, even wanting to give me a hug. Xiaoya, you're so kind. I feel at ease knowing you're here. I almost vomited in disgust and quickly said it was getting late, and I needed to go to town to check out some new furniture. Xiaoya, from now on, we'll be one family. Now, swear in your mother's name that no matter what happens in the future, you'll always treat my siblings well, or else your mother won't find peace in the afterlife. Guqing stopped me and waited for me to nod. In my previous life, he forced me to swear an oath before faking his death. I thought he was worried that I would be harsh to his younger siblings after marriage, so I complied. It was that single oath that wasted most of my life. Guqing saw that I remained silent, a hint of hurt flashing across his face. Forget it, they're just a burden. It's normal if you don't want to, I said. First, swear that if you treat me poorly, your parents won't find peace even in the afterlife. Guqing's expression stiffened, as if he hadn't expected me to counterattack with words. In the past, whenever Guqing would lament like this, I would always soften and comply. Admit it, he really knew how to manipulate my past self. I also know that no matter whether I swear or not, Guqing will carry out his fake death plan. He has already taken out a high-interest loan, according to Ma Ji's rules, even if he pays it back immediately. He still has to pay a high interest. With the meager salary from the factory, Guqing simply can't pay it off. He has already been targeted by Zhu Shouqin's ex-husband. The arrow is on the string. It must be released. While Guqing was momentarily stunned, I walked out the door. I met some villagers on the road. Everyone greets me, asking where I'm going since I'm about to get married. I rubbed my eyes, my face filled with sorrow. I just want to go out for a walk alone. Is it because of Zhu Shouqin? Oh, Guqing is really clueless. My tears fell instantly. Zhu Shouqin is wearing my clothes, stealing food from my home. But my mom is gone, and no one is helping me. The neighbors comforted me while cursing the 3 Gu siblings as ungrateful people, helping outsiders bully the daughter of their benefactor. I walked out of the village, my face filled with desolation. A torrential downpour was imminent, as expected. There wasn't a soul in sight by the river. I hopped onto the waiting boat and headed to the train station. An hour later, I boarded a train heading south, my face concealed. The scenery outside the window kept changing, and I felt drowsy. It wasn't until noon that Guqing finally left the house. Reluctantly, he repeatedly urged Gu Feng and Gu Yuan, be polite to Song Xiaoya, take good care of yourselves, and I'll write to you. The siblings' eyes instantly reddened. Brother, you need to be careful with your safety in the future. We'll be fine. If that woman wants to be our sister-in-law, she should be willing to give everything for us. Guqing had no concerns. He firmly believed that I was kind and generous and would not mistreat his younger siblings. In his past life, he indeed made the right bet. I would rather eat coarse food and drink thin gruel, but I raised his siblings. Guqing borrowed a small boat and rowed towards the riverbank. To his surprise, there should have been no one at the riverbank during a rainstorm, yet it was now crowded with villagers. With so many people watching, how can he carry out his fake death plan? Is the plan going to be postponed? But Zhu Shouqin has already bought the train ticket and is waiting for him in town. Someone recognized him and anxiously shouted, your fiancé must have fallen into the river. Come and take a look. Guqing thought it was impossible. I clearly went to town to order furniture. How could I have fallen into the big river? But my shoes were scattered on the shore, and my hat was floating in the middle of the river. This all clearly indicates that something unfortunate has happened to me. In my previous life, Guqing also faked his death in this manner. He said he was going to catch a few fish to serve as the main course for tonight's dinner party. I feel even more guilty, believing that he lost his life for the sake of our marriage. This large river flows into the Yangtze with swift currents. Even if someone drowns, it's nearly impossible to find the body without advanced equipment. In my previous life, I never suspected that Songqing might have faked his death. Since his younger siblings were still here, if he were alive, he would have definitely returned. I went to stay with my cousin, who had worked in Guangzhou's garment industry before returning home and becoming one of the village's first 10,000 yuan households. I decided to order a large quantity of jeans that had just been introduced to the domestic market from the factory. Many people didn't think much of these pants made from this material. They were stiff and not very attractive. Who would have thought they would later sweep the globe and become a timeless fashion staple? Guqing looked at my belongings, and his face turned pale in an instant. Some speculated that I had intentionally taken my own life. Especially since I seemed very upset that morning, the villagers pointed fingers at Guqing, calling him heartless and accusing him of entanglement with other women, which drove me to death. Guqing was still in shock. My death had completely derailed his plans, and he was at a loss for what to do. Soon, Ma Gu arrived with a group of underlings to demand repayment. The news of my death spread throughout the village. It was because I was from the village and had a share in the house that Ma Gu was willing to lend money to Guqing. Now that I'm gone, he naturally feels uneasy. With his professional instincts, he swiftly grabbed Guqing's bag, which was packed with clothes and expensive watches, clearly indicating an intention to travel far away. Son, he immediately demanded that Guqing repay the money at once, or else he would break his legs. I learned about this because my cousin from the same village wrote me a letter. Of course, I only told her that I left heartbroken because Guqing and Zhu Shouqin were involved, and she didn't know about our past grievances. Ma Gu realized that Guqing might try to run away, so he escorted him home and started hurling insults, forcing him to repay the debt. Guqing had never faced such a situation before, leaving him completely panicked and unsure how to handle it. In my previous life, I faced such circumstances for over a decade, all while protecting the frightened Gu Feng and her brother. Guqing thought there might still be some money in my room, but I had sold all the furniture in the house, leaving it completely bare. Gu Feng and Gu Yuan, too, were trembling with fear, clutching each other. Guqing had a sudden idea. My house could still fetch some money, and since I was dead with no relatives, there was no one to claim it. The house can only belong to him, her fiancé. The village head showed up with people, pulling out documents to say my house had been requisitioned. Even if Guqing dared to buy it, Brother Ma wouldn't dare to accept it. Guqing was both angry and anxious, constantly blaming me for dying so suddenly. And even if you're dead, where exactly did you put the money? Ma Gu is getting impatient. You only borrowed the money yesterday, surely you didn't spend it all already. Guqing felt a bitter ache in his heart. As soon as he got the money, he wired it to Zhu Shouqin's cousin who was doing business in the south. The man had promised that this business could multiply profits several times over, and once he and Zhu Shouqin arrived, they would become big bosses. That was indeed the case in a past life, but now, Guqing missed the train to Guangzhou today, and Brother Ma is glaring at him, so there's no way he can leave the house. Guqing pinned his hopes on Zhu Shouqin. Perhaps she would go to Guangzhou first without waiting for him, and bring the money to help him deal with Brother Ma. Unfortunately, his hopes were dashed once again. Zhu Shouqin, escorted by her ex-husband, also returned to the village. It turns out that Zhu Shouqin and Lu Aruzi never finalized their divorce, and her family still hasn't returned the substantial betrothal gift from Lu Aruzi. That's why Lu Aruzi keeps causing her trouble. Chaos reigns here in Guqing. The money sent to Zhu Shouqin's cousin has vanished without a trace. Meanwhile, my business is thriving. I incorporated future fashion elements, designed bell-bottoms and high-waisted jeans, and had the factory mass-produce them. My cousin also partnered with me. She focused on sales, while I handled sourcing from manufacturers. As soon as the product was ready, we gave it away for free to young girls on the street, creating a new trend. And our customers gradually increased. On the 5th day after I left the village, my aunt told everyone that I hadn't drowned in the river but had gone to work elsewhere, and it was all a misunderstanding. It was a misunderstanding. Faking my death would have led to my identity being cancelled, causing many inconveniences for me outside, and I am a law-abiding citizen. Anyway, I'm not local, so Guqing's troubles don't involve me. In this life, without me. Guqing was brutally beaten by Ma Gu and Lu Er. Although someone reported it, the two were detained for education. Ma Ji's loan sharking was also illegal, but Guqing still owed a huge principal to repay, and his affair with a married woman was also a fact. No one sympathized with him, and even fewer people helped him. After beating Guqing, Lu Erun calmed down and, cursing, divorced Zhu Shouqin. Guqing eagerly thought that although he was injured, he could now be with Zhu Shouqin openly. And since I left of my own accord before the marriage, he was not wrong, and things didn't seem so bad. But when Zhu Shouqin saw that Guqing was limping and had his younger siblings as burdens, and they had no place to live, she immediately wanted to leave. Guqing was furious. It's all because of you that I've ended up like this. No wonder you encouraged me to elope with you. Turns out you weren't even divorced. Zhu Shouqin no longer had her previous tenderness and charm, only replying with disgust, "You're the one who said you wanted to compensate me. Did I beg you to? Isn't it because you were thinking about making a fortune in the south that you decided to elope with me? Gu Feng and Gu Yuan asked Zhu Shouqin to take care of Guqing for a while, thinking that since Zhu Shouqin loved their elder brother more, she would definitely be willing to stay, do a better job than me. Zhu Shouqin shook off their hands. Who wants to take care of you two burdens? Do you think I'm that fool Song Xiaoya, treating you like young masters and ladies to serve? After a big argument, Zhu Shouqin left, and it said she went back to try matchmaking again. Gu Feng and Gu Yuan couldn't get used to their hard life now, often blaming Guqing for driving me away and refusing to take care of him while he's bedridden. Later, Gu Feng and Gu Yuan couldn't afford their tuition and had to drop out of school. One of them obediently went to cut pigweed, while the other found some manual labor work to make a living. Used to follow me, but it was all about being waited on hand and foot. Reading my aunt's letter, it's not that I didn't feel uneasy, but I don't want to dwell on past grievances, just hoping to live a worthwhile life this time. Worthwhile. Unexpectedly, 3 months later, I still saw Guqing. Since my house was requisitioned, I need to go back to the village to sign a document. Guqing and his 2 siblings were arranged by the village head to stay in his abandoned hut. When Guqing saw me standing at the village head's door with bags in hand, his eyes lit up, but he deliberately avoided looking at me. What? Couldn't make it out there and came back again. In the past, whenever he spoke coldly to me, I would feel flustered and go out of my way to appease him. Gu Feng put her hands on her hips. Give the demolition money to my brother to pay off his debts. And we'll still accept you as our sister-in-law. Gu Yuan also extended her arm to shoo me away. Go away, you're not welcome here. I surveyed the dilapidated little room, where a crooked table held only a half-eaten bun and half a bowl of pickles. It's a world of difference from my old brick house. Guqing's leg was still wrapped in bandages, and when he noticed my gaze, he instinctively shrank back. I laughed. Why would I want to be your sister-in-law? Is it because your brother is now crippled, or because he's deep in debt? Guqing glared at me with humiliation, his mouth opening and closing, but no words came out. Gu Feng, with a tough exterior but weak inside, said, my brother borrowed money just so he could marry you. You ran away, so you must compensate him. Guqing's eyes turned red, and he looked at me with, Xiaofeng, stop, it's all my choice. And it has nothing to do with your Xiaoya sister, even now. You're still putting on an act of deep affection in front of me. If that's the case, I might as well reveal the truth. Guqing, you ended up like this because you borrowed money to run away with Zhu Shouqin, but you were shot down before you could even take off. TSK, what a pity. Guqing's face turned a deep shade of purple instantly. You know everything. Can I be wrong then? It was all Zhu Shouqin's deception. Guqing looked at me pleadingly, thinking I was still the naive fool who saw them as a family. Even if they made mistakes, out of years of affection, I would reconcile with them. But in my previous life, I paid a heavy price for misjudging people, and I won't be that foolish again. After signing the documents, I planned to leave, but through the window, I saw Guqing's face filled with reluctance. My cousin wrote to me. Guqing promised Ma that he would definitely pay back the money soon. And he might even turn his attention to me, so I should be careful. I took note of it and continued focusing on my business. I soon indeed saw Guqing again. I went to the station to pick up my cousin who was returning from a visit to her hometown, and to my surprise, Guqing had secretly followed along with Gu Feng and Gu Yuan. Guqing was leaning on a cane, apparently having lost the use of one leg. He looked haggard and was dressed in tattered clothes. And the brother and sister following behind him were also unkempt. They were all soft-hearted people who couldn't endure hardship, and finally, they couldn't hold on any longer. My cousin felt it was inauspicious and wanted to drive them away, but they looked at me pitifully. When they first arrived at my house, they looked just like this. My mother was heartbroken and immediately boiled water for them to bathe and prepared clothes. From initial caution to later taking it for granted, exploiting my kindness to manipulate me. Human hearts are always prone to change. My cousin and I have opened a sizable wholesale market specializing in various types of pants. The siblings' eyes gleamed with greed and envy as they watched the bustling business. The 3 of them stood stubbornly at the entrance of our shop, like glue that wouldn't let go. A curious customer asked who they were. Guqing shyly looked at me and said, I'm Xiaoya's family. Gu Feng and Gu Yuan chimed in, Sister Xiaoya is our sister-in-law. My cousin was so angry that she wanted to kick them out, but they hadn't done anything outrageous, so calling security wouldn't help. When things calmed down, I decided to have a talk with them. A Cantonese tea house, filled with smoke. Guqing looked expectantly. Xiaoya, Your mom took us in back then because she was afraid you'd be alone and get bullied in the future. I poured myself a pot of tea. Yes, she hoped I wouldn't feel too lonely after she was gone. Gu Cheng's eyes lit up instantly, and his hands trembled with excitement. Yes, yes, so we came to find you. We can give you the warmth of a home. Let's live together like we used to. Okay, if you want to marry me, let's do it right away. Gu Yuan, stuffing pastries into her mouth, exclaimed, so delicious. I'll come every day from now on. Gu Feng had already stuffed all the melon seeds and peanuts on the table into her own pocket. Gu Qing looked somewhat embarrassed, carefully observing my expression. I curled my lips, but I already have a home. Behind me, a pretty little girl ran up to me, holding a bouquet of flowers. Sister Xiaoya, this is from my brother. Behind him, the young and handsome tea house owner smiled and nodded at me. Gu Cheng's face turned pale, and he spoke with difficulty. Why? I spoke calmly. The tea house owner is young and successful, handsome and wealthy, and his sister is generous and lovely. My gaze inadvertently fell on Gu Cheng's crippled leg, as well as Gu Yuan and Gu Feng, who were eating with their mouths full of crumbs. I got up and left, noticing through the glass that Gu Cheng's gaze at my retreating figure was growing increasingly fierce. The next day, my shop caught fire. Fortunately, it was discovered in time, and no significant damage was caused. More fortunately, neither my cousin nor I slept in the store. Gu Cheng and his two siblings were caught at the train station. They also had several thousand yuan in cash that had gone missing from the store. Gu Cheng's malicious arson and theft will have him singing behind bars for years. Gu Yuan and Gu Feng, being young, were sent back to their hometown. Before being detained, Gu Cheng asked to see me one last time. Could you please look after Xiao Feng and Xiao Yuan? They are still young and don't understand right from wrong. I chuckled. No, I'm a heartless woman. In my previous life, when I was seriously ill, Gu Yuan and Gu Feng had already established their own families. I lay in the old house, neglected by everyone. It was only after the village chief called them that they reluctantly came to see me, not even willing to pour me a glass of water. Later, Gu Cheng asked them how they had been doing all these years. They replied, this woman still has a conscience and hasn't mistreated us, but in our hearts, we only recognize Xiuqin as our sister-in-law. After working hard for most of my life, I was merely referred to as that woman by them. Gu Cheng's face changed drastically, and he pointed trembling fingers at me. You've also returned. No wonder, you did it on purpose, deliberately placing the money in a conspicuous spot and intentionally provoking me, and you left on purpose before my fake death. Not because you were heartbroken over me and Xiuqin. Gu Cheng lost his composure and shouted, his face full of disbelief. I shook my head innocently. I don't understand what you're talking about. I beg you, in our past life, I wronged you. Can you forgive me? Gu Cheng was emotionally overwhelmed, tears streaming down his face. Did he truly realize his mistake? No, he was just afraid that I would continue to seek revenge on his siblings. I didn't intend to keep ing with them after I arrived in Guang City, but they weren't planning to let me go. I'm just a good friend with the tea house owner, not a romantic partner. That day was just to embarrass Gu Cheng on purpose. He realized I would never come back, so he took the risk. There's nothing more final than being locked up here. As for Gu Feng and Gu Yuan, with a brother in prison and no fixed assets in the village, both of them being lazy, their future will be filled with endless suffering. Later, I heard they couldn't make it and went to cause trouble for Zhu Xiuqin. As soon as Zhu Xiuqin's in-laws heard about her past, they immediately demanded to break off the engagement. Gu Feng and Gu Yuan were harshly scolded by Xiuqin's family. Villains need other villains to deal with them. I stepped outside, the sun shining brightly. The once shy and handsome boy seemed like a distant memory. The first time I saw Gu Cheng, he was breaking a steamed bun in half to share with his younger siblings. The two children asked if he wanted to eat. He looked tenderly and said, Big brother isn't hungry, you guys eat. My mom was deeply touched and whispered in my ear, this kid is really great. Xiaoya, do you want a brother? I nodded with joy. What if he becomes your family? Otherwise, when I leave, you'll be all alone, and it won't feel like a home anymore. Now I want to tell my mom. A home isn't defined by the number of people in it. Where my heart feels at peace is my home, whether it's just me or many people. My cousin excitedly pulled me aside when she saw me return. Your design jeans style is selling like hotcakes again. Great, this life is bright and smooth for me. The end. That's all for today's story. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe. If you have any suggestions,